Welcome to On the Point Podcast, a podcast for all things Overwatch with a heavy focus on League. Disgusting. I always do that. It's always disgusting.
I mean, there's going to be a disgusting roster move that we will discuss, but yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of where it's discussing roster moves, weekly matchups. There was a disgusting matchup in the finals. Oh boy. And this time around, stage finals, now that we've had a little bit of time to process.
Yes, and I have like 6 pages of notes.
I'm still kind of reeling from what happened from the bracket busting that occurred. So
yeah, a little bit.
That's a little bit of March Madness for those of you that don't do college basketball.
Yeah, we will get into this.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Katie. I'm the casual.
I'm CJ. I pay too much attention to things.
You're the expert.
No.
You will eventually do this.
No.
You will capitulate to my whims.
No.
It will happen.
No.
It will.
No.
It will. All right, we could do this for the whole podcast, but
could.
we won't.
Yeah.
So let's roll right into the stage playoffs then.
Yeah. So we both thought it was going to be Vancouver versus NYXL, and we were not correct.
I mean, we got about half our predictions correct.
Oh, Vancouver
on
steamrolled to the
Vancouver
finals.
side of the bracket.
NYXL, though, Seoul played spoiler for NYXL's playoff hopes and kind of the dream to see that matchup of Vancouver versus NYXL.
Well, we'll eventually get it in regular season.
Well, yeah.
Like, that's going to come down the line at some point.
Oh, for sure.
We were expecting it in the finals, and NYXL, they didn't trip at the finish line. They tripped at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like, it's a combination of them tripping and I think Seoul playing into something that really kind of... Here's the thing. A lot of teams won't, like... Zen Goats is still kind of the strongest composition. It's the most ideal one, but a lot of teams will run the Sombra Goat. I don't care.
I know you don't, but I'm so done.
You're not going to be happy with stage 2.
I was going to say, take a shot every time we complain about goats.
Every time you complain about goats.
We're an entity.
Fair enough. Zen Goats is kind of the ideal composition, and Sombra Goats is strong basically because of EMP, right? You can land a big hack, and sometimes that'll turn a fight, but a lot of the time you're not going to be able to hack a target that's going to let your team instantly win a fight. Like, if you're trying to hack the Ryan can rotate his shield, break your line of sight, and then someone, pokes you back. Basically, the weakness of Sombra Goats is not just the difficulty of hacking a high-value target, but it's also the fact that you have a significantly weakened front line because you don't have that diva there. You don't have the health pool of the diva, the damage output of the diva.
And the grav eater.
And the defense matrix in general to just absorb a lot of damage that's going to be flying at your Reinhardt's face. So sort of the way to counter Sombra Goats is to go very aggressive, to just push hard and punish that weakened front line, focus down the Rhine, pretty much do everything you can to take fights as quickly and aggressively as possible to ensure that you get those fights before Sombra gets EMP, because that's their win condition with this comp.
Yeah.
And if you play passively, it lets the Sombra dance around and get, poke until they have that EMP ready to go. And the thing is, how does NYXL play?
Reactively.
They play a defensive, reactive style. They didn't really, they didn't punish they didn't punish that composition choice from the Seoul Dynasty all that well, and they didn't do it often either. And when you've got a Sombra as good as Michelle, that's a big problem. And the other thing is, Seoul just looked a lot cleaner.
They did. This is the best that Seoul's performed all stage.
Yeah, they looked fantastic. They looked like they finally had all their pieces clicking. They honestly did a really great job of pressuring Jonak a lot as well, because they forced a lot of transcendences out of him in a place where they wouldn't necessarily get a lot of value.
And I feel like NYXL is a powerhouse team, we know this, but with all of the press that Jonak gets, with all the discussion, I feel like a lot of the discussion is, hey, if you can focus him and take him out, so much the better. He's a DPS.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely a big part of it, though I do think we've gone over this before about how the NYXL used to be this team called LW Blue.
Yes.
And they always choked in playoffs.
Yeah.
It's this long-standing curse of theirs that when the pressure's really on, they look great up until that point, and then they just kind of peter out. And I don't know if it's like stage fright or I don't know what it is, but they definitely played, even I think, more passive than normally. They didn't really change their play style to suit the compositional choices we saw from Seoul. And they did to a certain extent, like on Volskaya, when Seoul was breaking out the triple DPS, you saw them swap Winston the second go-around, which is a little stronger against that triple DPS comp, because with Winston you've got more force projection. You can chase the DPS a little more than you can with a pretty static Reinhardt. But in general, they didn't do anything to really stuff Seoul's game, and Seoul just got to implement their game plan at will. And
when you're playing Sombra, a Sombra can eat a Zenyatta alive if that Zen doesn't have a lot of protection. So if they're letting Michelle into their back lines, of course you're going to focus Jonak. When you hack a Zen, they're done.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone who plays a lot of Zenyatta and gets eaten alive by the local Sombra. Yeah.
Well, also Michelle was doing it on D.Va, too. Like, there was one on Volskaya where he was sitting on the high ground directly behind Jonak and was just shooting down and forced the trance without Seoul committing an ult at all. And that, if you're the team that has that happen, that's an ult economy disaster. Because that ult takes time to build, and it's so valuable in countering so many things that just... If that happens, that's the go button for Seoul to just run in there and take that fight aggressively. Because as soon as that runs out, you can land your grab, and that's free. That's just a fight you win.
Yeah. I'm just really surprised that NYXL got mowed down so quickly. I wonder if part of it wasn't head game. Choking in the finals, but also looking ahead to the next match. Yeah. Because a lot of people had NYXL picked to win. Yeah. And I wonder if they weren't looking ahead to the last stage against Vancouver with the assumption that it's going to be these two. And when you're looking into the distance, you can get tripped by something right in front of you, and that's what happened.
I do think they underestimated Seoul.
It's easy to do after this stage.
Yeah, considering how up and down they've been in general.
Yeah. Like, their performance in this stage, definitely good enough for the playoffs. I'm not sitting there going, oh, Seoul is a bad team, because incorrect. Seoul is a good team.
Yes.
But their performance in this stage was haphazard. Yeah. And their performance last season as a whole was haphazard. Yeah. So it's easy to say, oh, yeah, NYXL, consistently good, they'll take this easily. And for Seoul to just pull it together right then and there and just about sweep them. Surprised everyone. Even no one more than NYXL, I'd say.
I'd say Seoul too, because I remember in an interview, Fisher's like, we really didn't think we were going to win, so we were kind of as surprised as everybody else when it just started going our way that quickly.
Like, now we have to prepare. Shit.
Yeah, kind of.
So yeah. Deplane.
Yeah, that's the problem of living near Bob Hope Airport.
Such is life.
Yeah.
So that was that match.
Yeah. Seoul, despite that, upset, they didn't make it through to the finals. And we saw the team that I think a lot of people consider to be the third behind Vancouver and NYXL, the Shock, stepping up, taking their side of the bracket. And we got Vancouver versus Shock in the finals. And I was lucky enough to be there for that.
That I wound up watching that on mute because it was the same time as one of my D&D games. So I've got the actual sound for my game because I'm involved in that. And then the finals up on a second screen, just on mute, looking over and going, wow, shit's going down everywhere.
Oh, yeah, no, this was an insane series. And for my money, the best one of the season so far.
Oh, yeah. Is this the first time we've gone to a Game 7? I feel like it is.
It might be. Well, the thing is, we didn't have the 7-game format last season.
We had it for the finals, did we not?
No. They played 2 normal series. They did a best-of-3 normal series, which honestly, I don't like that format. I like the best-of-7 way more. It lends itself to these bigger, more interesting cinematic battles because you had such a back and forth. Like, it was literally Shock, Vancouver, Shock, Vancouver, Shock, Vancouver, Vancouver breaking the pattern, getting the win.
And the analysts were talking about if you picked the match, you won the map. Yeah. Like, that was the pattern for this. Mm-hmm. So Vancouver breaking it at the end saved them.
Yeah, which, man, it was an insane game with everyone playing out of their mind.
We'll get there.
Yes.
We've got a fair number of other matches to talk about beforehand.
Well, this was the one I wanted to focus on because I wanted to deep dive into it. Like, the other matches I didn't prepare as much, detailed info for just because a lot of the time it kind of went the way I feel like it would be expected.
Yeah.
This one
but
I want to...
we should at least rattle through who won each one.
Yes. So let's break up the thing that I wasn't planning on doing.
I didn't realize that was the case.
I didn't have it in the notes, damn it.
We'll do it live. Well, I didn't look at your notes because I didn't want there to be spoilers, because you didn't want there to be spoilers.
Yeah, but you would have been fine looking at the first page. So, Vancouver Titans with the 3-0 over Boston Uprising.
Not a surprise.
Not really too much of a surprise, no. Especially considering some of the stuff we'll get into a little later on.
Fusion over Atlanta 3-1, which I think that was one that we were going back and forth on in our predictions.
Yeah, and that's... It's one of those games that could have gone either way because they are really brawly teams that are somewhat inconsistent in how they perform. Like, a lot of this stage, Philadelphia Fusion has been playing up to high-level competition and playing down to weaker competition. Mm-hmm. Whereas Atlanta, it's hard for me to get a read on what hurts them and what helps them in terms of an opponent.
Well, and at this point, going into these, Atlanta knew that DeFran was going to leave.
Yeah. I don't know if they knew that he was going to leave, or at least beyond the management, but I figure considering DeFran's not exactly someone who's...
He's not subtle.
No. No, he's not.
But if I'm recalling what I read correctly, he knew before they went into finals that he was going to leave. I feel like the team at large knew it as well. I might be misremembering
also,
this,
in case you haven't...
But that can affect your...
Yeah. Also, in case you haven't heard, DeFran retired.
Yep.
We'll talk about that more a little later.
Yep. Yes, we will.
So, Philly with the 3-1 over Atlanta Reign. Shock with the 3-0 win over the Toronto Defiant. And then going into our semifinal matchups, we had a pair of 4-0s. Vancouver with the 4-0 against Seoul.
Which was not a surprise.
No, and Shock with the 4-0 against Fusion, which I wasn't surprised by either.
It was still fun to watch. The orange match was a good time.
It was. It was a lot of fun.
It was one that could have gone either way. I think we all went into Seoul and Titans knowing what was going to happen.
Honestly, I didn't doubt Shock for a second in this one. The thing is, Philly's inconsistency stems from the fact that they're just not great at goats. They have a lot of individual skill, but they haven't adapted to the play style of that composition. And also, Sato's just not comfortable on the Reinhardt. And up against Shock, you have a team that is elite at this. They know what they need to do. They have the best Zarya one of the two best Zaryas in the league. I'm gonna fucking planes.
And then Super, really bringing his A game.
Oh yeah, especially in the finals. But
and he just aged in, didn't he? Recently?
Middle of last season.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, So, yeah, in the finals, he really, really showed up. But again, like we said, Vancouver Titans versus San Francisco Shock. Our finals for the stage, that was a 4-3 win for Vancouver, where they started down. Shock had that first map win.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone was expecting that. I think we've all seen Titans as this just unbeatable juggernaut, and they continued to be that, but this was a close match.
Well, the thing is, Vancouver has had they have had moments where you could see the blood in the water. They never looked all the way out of the fight prior to this or even through this. But the thing is, Vancouver Titans has a hyper-aggressive style.
Yes.
They dictate the pace of the fight, they take charge, they put the other team on the back foot and force them into a Vancouver Titans fight. What Shock did a lot of this time was they were the aggressors. They took sort of the tempo from Vancouver Titans. And when that happened, when you're the aggressive team and the other team has to react, the onus of thinking is kind of on the defender.
Yeah.
And that gives the Vancouver Titans pause. They didn't look as clean. Well, clean's not the right word, but they didn't look as on the same page as they normally do.
The best defense is a good offense, and a good offense didn't always work.
Not always, but honestly, a lot of the time here, Well, honestly, I really want to get into this because this map by map is legitimately, if you want to see how to play goats at a super high level, you need to watch this and watch what individual players do, because they do such a great job of playing the composition well and also playing to the enemy that you're facing so well.
And that's why we're deep diving this.
Yeah. So, breakdown time.
All 7 maps. Strap in, everybody. Let's roll.
Go. Okay, so first map was Nepal, which Shock ended up winning. It started off kind of wonky for them with Violet. I'm going to go through some plays here. I'm not going to go like beat by beat by beat by beat because we would be here for like 6 hours.
And we need to not do that.
Yeah, we need to not do that. Really early, that first fight from the 2 on Village set the tone for that entire round. Basically, Sinatra and Soyman Su farmed up their grabs so fast that they were able to use them before the first fight was over.
Which is wild.
Yeah, Sinatra threw his grab out first, which I think was kind of a mistake because they'd already lost Super, and Soyman Su has his grab up there to counter. And if you can land the counter grab after you... Basically, when you launch a grab, you want to be able to go in and follow up. Yeah. If the other team has their grab in place and is able to counter grab, you're locked up and you get no value from your grab. But because you used it first, you're still locked in position a little bit after they're free.
So if they've got a bomb ready, then that's that.
Yeah. Or in this case, if Violet commits trance after Super dies and the grab comes out.
Yeah.
Where they're down, and basically that means that Bumper's going into the next fight with his ult up. Soyman Su's going to have an ult advantage on Sinatra, and Twilight's going to have his trance, and Violet doesn't. And from there, it was just kind of just a steamroll. Basically, that ultimate disadvantage allowed Vancouver to take the fights they wanted to, use their ult sparingly, and basically just bully Shock, because Shock was never able to really overcome that resource disadvantage.
Vancouver doing what Vancouver does best.
Yes, whereas I think the other map, where I think Sanctum, was really Shock doing what Shock does best. They did a great job of, well, with Sanctum, you see a lot of Winston goats just because you want that ability to jump over the pit and contest people that are on the point or on the high ground, or, you know, you need that mobility to get places.
Yeah.
And Shock did an amazing job of isolating Bumper away from his team, getting that kill, and then snowballing from there.
Well, and Bumper likes to do stuff on his own anyway, so...
It's true.
Catching him out when he is out of position or when he's trying to corner.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at this point, everyone in the league knows that Bumper corners, and it's just a matter of, did we build this into our strategy? Did we build this into our awareness?
Well, it's less so with Winston, but, like, with Ryan,
in general,
sure.
he's
very
a lot
aggressive.
On Ryan.
Well, yeah, you kind of want to play the corner.
But he's known for it.
Yeah.
So you check your corners for Bumper.
Yeah, and the other thing is I think Shock did a great job of using their support ults in a reactive way. They never kind of got forced to use it in a place that was disadvantageous. They always had them ready to counter whatever ults were coming out of the Vancouver Titans, and that's kind of what you want, because, again, much like the grab, when you throw out your ultimate first, that duration is going to be short. You're going to run out of it sooner than the person who pops it reactively.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, but if someone pops it and then you pop it right after, you're going to have the advantage because yours lasts just that second longer, provided you're not already down the way that they were in Village.
Good times.
Yeah. Good times. But again, we kind of see that mistake. Like, this was kind of a running theme. Violet had a lot of really shaky trances where either they would come out late, like right after the target you want to try and keep alive with it dies, then he pops it. And that leaves, honestly, like that would have left Shock on the back foot, and we might have seen the same exact situation that happened on Village, but Super hit a massive shatter when the Vancouver Titans tried to follow in. Basically, that trance went down, Super died, Titans land a grav. They're coming in like they land it right as Super's coming in. They're coming in to get the kills and secure that fight. Super hits everybody with the shatter. And
which is crazy.
Yeah, but the thing is, this also sets a pattern we're going to see a lot, which is Bumper is super, super aggressive. You know that he's going to try and commit to the fight, and he's going to be pushing, doing damage as much as possible. That is a pattern that you can exploit because he might not always be in the right position to block a shatter if he's, pushing for the fight in another place.
Yeah.
That being said, this map, a lot of it came down to Vancouver kind of used their ults smarter in the next fight, but Super lands that shatter again. And the last fight, the hero is Choi Hyobin. Because Choi Hyobin, the last fight was really interesting to watch. Because once again, Bumper's not in position to block the shatter. Super lands it, but Slime commits beat and keeps his team alive. Kind of negates the value of the trance, but while everyone's down, Choi Hyobin is able to sneak behind them. He's putting damage in the back line, and when his boosters are online, he flies forward, boops Bumper into the middle of Shock, and they dogpile and kill him, and it snowballs from there. Like, isolation plays like that are something you should try to incorporate in your own gameplay, because if you can take advantage of that and knock an enemy into your team where you can dogpile and kill them, getting that opening kill, especially in a especially in a comp like GOAT, where it's all based on team synergy and everyone working together, if you get that, you can win that fight outright a lot of times, especially if it's the main tank that you're isolating and killing.
Yeah, I think there's a statistic for this, but I cannot remember it off the top of my head. I just remember the Zarya one, where if you lose your Zarya, you only win 7% of fights after that.
Oh, yeah. And again, part of that's because Zarya is such...
The damage dealer.
Is the damage dealer, and her ultimate is very valuable. And if you don't have grab, they don't really have to worry about that counter grab thing I was talking about before.
And also, she's the main damage dealer, and then also the one who survives longer, has the better charge, does more damage, and it just becomes this domino effect.
It does. But yeah, and basically that isolation play is what gave Shock the win on Shrine, and that gives them the win on Nepal.
And I love when we have control maps like this where you go to the third map because it's that little microcosm of a tiebreaker.
And you had like 100-0 on Village for Titans. Then you had like close to 100-0 for the Shock on Sanctum, and then like 99-100 in favor of Shock on Shrine.
Which, again, a microcosm of a tiebreaker, a microcosm of what this match is going to be. And how many times can I say microcosm? Yeah.
It's so back and forth. It comes down to people noticing the mistakes made by their enemies and adapting to them. Because on Nimbani, we see a lot of the same. But I think the big thing to focus in on is Super's Earth Shatters, because he hits a ton of them on the Titans.
He does.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of those times you can see that Bumper is away from the rest of his team. They're over here, he's over there, putting some pressure on. Super gets a shatter, lands a big hit, but the Titans do an incredible job of reacting to those shatters every time. Because here's the thing. Shock gets full held on Nimbani despite Super hitting 3 multi-man Earth Shatters on the attack. They still can't cap it off of that. Nobody dies to them. And here's why. Basically, every time one of those shatters comes out, the Titans that weren't stunned rush forward and interpose themselves between the Shock and their teammates and absorb damage long enough for everyone to get up. The Shock just aren't in position to capitalize on those stuns, or they don't hit a support who is then able to pop his ult and keep everyone else alive. First shatter, we see the Shock players are across the point from all the down Titans, and all the unstunned Titans, Bumper, Janu, and I think Haksal, immediately rush in between and form a cordon that pretty much blocks any damage any meaningful damage, I should say.
And that includes that Reinhardt shield.
Yeah, from getting through to the downed Titans, and then that shatter just gets no value. The second shatter that Super hits, all the Shock players, except for Super, are focusing Bumper. They're in the tunnel by that mega health pack, or they're in the streets. So nobody has direct line of sight on the downed members of the Titans, except for Sinatra. And so Sinatra and Super are the only ones who can do damage, and Super immediately gets shield bashed by Haksal. So Sinatra's the only one who can put damage down. And this is one thing you've got to communicate, like, this is one thing I've just got to stress again, because when you're using your ultimates, it is so important to make sure that your team is in position to capitalize on those ultimates. Because you can hit the fattest shatter in the world. You can hit 6 people. But if nobody's in position to help you with damage, you're not going to get value out of that. And that's what we saw on Nimbani. And that's why the Shock couldn't cap point A.
And part of what's so interesting about GOATs is that all of your ultimates are non-damage. Mm-hmm. All of your ultimates are...
Diva Bomb.
Well, true.
Yeah.
All of them except for, the really big one that everyone knows about. I am out of it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys doing? Most of them are non-damage.
They're sustain or CC.
Yep. 3 support ults and 2 stay there, damn it, ults. Mm-hmm. So if you've already got the bomb out, every other ult is something that needs to be capitalized on, is part of teamwork. You can't just pop the Dragon Blade or summon Bob or whatever and go to town. You have to work in conjunction with your team. And so you can have a great ultimate, but if there's no teamwork, too bad.
Exactly. And the thing is, the third shatter that Super hit kind of shows the opposite side of that coin. He hits a bunch of people, including Slime, who has his beat, but Twilight immediately pops Trance. He didn't get caught, and then his Trance is able to stop any follow-up from, resulting in a kill. And that meant that Vancouver had beat immediately afterwards to sustain that fight. So, by that same token, if your enemy is on the ball and you're not, you will get 0 value.
Yeah. So yeah, good match, but ultimately, no capitalization on shatters.
Yeah. Anubis, this map has so much going on that is so interesting to me, and I can't, get into all of it.
You did almost an entire page of notes on Anubis.
I did.
Give me the highlights.
Basically, again, we see that pattern of Super punishing Bumper's aggression by landing shatters on the rest of the team. That's one of the reasons that that the first cap goes through in favor of Shock.
And this was after halftime. They took the first halftime
after 2 maps. Yeah, they took the first halftime after 2.
Because it's possible that we'll only go to 4 or 5 in this case. So this was also after the team had a little bit of time to pull back, get some notes from their coach, reconvene, talk about why Nimbani happened the way it did.
Yeah, for sure. And and you'll see sort of in these later maps, Bumper plays a little more carefully to try and avoid those big shatters from Super.
Yeah.
You see Bumper's foot come off the gas pedal in a way that you just do not see.
Yeah, well, usually they don't have to worry about it. They don't usually have a team going blow for blow with them. Yeah,
it's true. And another thing I want to point out, early on the fight during Vancouver's attack round, they had a really good disengage when Sinatra's getting a ton of damage pumped out. They back up, wait until Sinatra dies. Twilight pops his Trance once the threat of the grab is removed, meaning that his team can march in pretty much untouched and get the kills on the remaining 5 people. There's just no damage. There's no threat to keep... Basically, generally speaking, you want to keep your Transcendence to answer the enemy Graviton. However, if the grab isn't there, you can use it. It's not necessarily a throw to use it in a way.
Fight.
Yeah, it's not a throw to use it in a way that isn't just countering grav. It can be if you know that grav is close, but if you know that the grav isn't there and it's not going to just fly at you the second the trance is expended, if you're right about to capture an objective, you can use that trance to get aggressive. You'll see that used a lot in especially Korean contenders.
Yeah.
But again, we see a late trance from Twilight after Super dies. Point A on on Shock's attack, I want to point something out, which is watch right when they're about to cap. Bumper is so far out of position, and I think he lost sight of where the bomb was, because Haksal and Twilight get killed by that bomb when they're about to full hold.
Oh.
It's so close. It's so close.
And that's what happens when you're out of position.
It's true.
Sometimes it works for your team, and sometimes it really super doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to point out is during Titan's attack round, despite the fact that they take some damage, Soimin-Soo gets to clutch out that fight and pretty much guarantee that they win it straight off the bat, because he gets the... Now, if you're playing on the attacker side, you go through the left, that little like bridge that leads to the high ground, you know where widows like to sit?
Yeah.
You can use your Zarya your rocket jump to get up there. He got up there and was able to melt through Choi Hyo-bin and get a shit ton of charge using his bubbles, and then from there was just shelling down on Shock, and no one could put pressure on him.
Yeah.
And so that's a trick for people to try and use in their games. If you can get that positioning as Zarya, you can land your bubbles and do a ton of damage from on high.
And I feel like high ground game like that is something that we've missed a lot of when sniper meta went the way of goats.
Yeah.
There hasn't been nearly as much high ground contesting because either characters, with the exception of Diva, don't have a lot of easy mobility to get up there.
Yeah.
Or just everything's on the ground and you stick with your team because if you're out of position, people die.
Yeah.
So that's something that's part of the reason that we all get so excited when Chengdu comes out and plays double sniper meta on something ridiculous, because we've missed high ground play.
Well,
So
you do see some of it on Hollywood. You'll see a lot of jockeying position for the high ground on Cafe or the high ground right by the choke.
You get it as well for Point A and Numbani.
And Volskaya as well.
But I'm talking like every map. You'd have widow battles, you'd have high ground fights, you'd have... It's a thing that you miss. There are parts of GOATs that are good, but you lose so much when this is your going meta. And I think at this point, people we get reminders of what we're missing and we go, oh, those were the good old days when we had DPS. Not something you'll usually hear from Overwatch spectators. Hey, remember DPS? Those were the good days. Were they? Were they? Yes?
I still enjoy watching this because this is so team play oriented. Like, it's less individual skill and more, like, really strategic thinking. And as someone who played in chess tournaments as a kid, I fucking love that.
Well, and again, you've got... I want to say we've got 3 different tiers of watching here. We've got the people who are tuning in for the first time on ABC or Disney XD or whatever, when I really appreciate that the casters know when they're going live onto a TV channel and greet the new people and say, hey, we're explaining some terminology, we're doing this. You can tell when the casting gets a little more newbie friendly, but it doesn't do that at the expense of quality casting. And that's true for every casting duo that they've had up there. And I really appreciate that.
Monty
that is
and Doa,
incredibly
Assembler
well
and Hex, and Uber and Mr. X all did amazing jobs of making it as accessible as possible.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do when you're on TV and there's people just flipping through channels going, what the hell is this? But it's also good for... I keep remembering during season 1, one of the later stages, I was there on my own, just chilling out, sat next to a family in shock jerseys, 3 or 4 kids and a dad. And at one point, I was just chatting with the dad in between maps, and he said, I've been here for 5 hours, and I still have no idea what's going on. And I feel like that's the point where I started, okay, well, this is a control map. They're both trying to do this. This one's attacking right now, like explaining some of the shorthand. But I feel like I've been here for 5 hours and I still don't get it is a result of this very insular culture. So again, I really appreciate that part of it is broadcasting deals, and part of
Yeah.
it is we want to bring more people into league to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that they've made it more accessible. And I feel like if that same dad came into the arena on a day they were broadcasting, when they switched to the accessibility broadcasting, it would be easier.
I think so.
It'd be better.
I think so.
But yeah, so 3 tiers. The people who have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
The people who are fans, who are into it, who enjoy it, kind of where I am. And the people at your level who know all the intricacies, who know all the strategy, who are your beginner, middle, hard mode.
Armchair experts.
And so I feel like beginner mode and hard mode are probably both really enjoying this because the layers on hard mode and because of the novelty on beginner mode. And those of us in the middle are like, oh my God, it's the same thing.
Well, also in
because
beginner...
the novelty is worn off of GOATs, but we're not at the point where we're picking up all of these micro individual plays on the fly. We get them in recap. We get them in podcasts like this. But we don't get them immediately.
Yeah.
And so it's still an exciting match, especially if your team is doing well. But it's also like, okay, we're playing the same people again.
I also
Fun
think,
being in the middle.
I also think for beginners, it's almost easier in some ways because with DPS-heavy compositions, you'll have stuff flying all over the place. It's so much faster paced and chaotic that it could be very hard to follow if you're not, if you don't know what you're doing.
I feel like GOATs is going to be hard to follow for a beginner anyway, because beginners we're talking about is probably not familiar with Overwatch in general.
True.
And so you're
But
seeing...
everything's on the screen. Like, you know where everyone is.
For the most part. And then you get a Sombra, and all bets are off.
Well, yeah. Of course, there are exceptions, but I feel like with GOATs, it's easier to spectate and cam a fight and to know the win conditions because it is, okay, whose ultimate is up, not, okay, where the fuck is Carpe?
True, but no one... I'm talking about people who... What's an ultimate? So
True.
I'm thinking of my parents, honestly, of my mom who, when she found out I was into Overwatch League, she convinced my brother and also herself got me Overwatch League merchandise for Christmas, which is just like the best thing.
Yeah.
And I love it. But she also texted me at one point because they get Disney XD and they get ABC and they have, 300 cable channels because there's a package, whatever. And she texted me and said, your Overwatch thing was on and I tried to watch it. It gave me motion sickness.
Yeah.
Because if you're not used to tracking those first-person POV shots, if you're not a DPS isn't the right point-and-click shooters, first-person FPS. Thank you.
FPS,
if you're
not DPS.
Yeah, close enough.
Wrong letter.
Close enough. In the immortal words of Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But if you're not used to that kind of screen, that kind of display, and there's a lot of abrupt movement that you're not controlling, yeah, that'll really throw you off.
It's true.
So when I think of beginners, I think of people like my mom, where someone close to them is into it, they've been exposed by someone else, they're trying it out on their own, let me see what my daughter is into and why she likes it so much. And she tried, and it didn't work for her because reasons, but there will be other people where this is their first experience. Thank goodness the casters are guiding them through it.
For sure. And
But they're still going to be lost regardless of what the meta is.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that with GOATs, it's easy to say, okay, here's what an ultimate is. Here's what these ones do. This is how you win with it. As opposed to with more DPS-heavy comp, okay, well, then here's what this does, what this does, what this does. Okay, he's up here. You need to worry about him being there because he can see here and here. Like, there's a lot more... I want to say individual, like, intricacy to what's going on. There's a lot more shit to keep track of.
Yeah. But that's also the point where I'm like, he's about to do a cool thing. Watch this happen.
Yeah.
They don't really need to know what the cool thing is quite yet. And if they see it happen and they go, wait, explain that cool thing. What happened? That's when it's going to be, okay, that's a dragon blade. It does this. It has this effect. And you need to get up close and personal for it. Like,
I gotta, I'm just saying, it's less initial work. I think GOATs is more accessible for an early viewer just because it's a little more contained, a little less chaotic.
And that's why being in the middle of that experience sandwich is such a problem.
Yeah. However...
Anyway, I hope you've been drinking through all of that because that was a very long discussion on GOATs.
Yes. However, I do want to point something out between Vancouver's attack rounds, because they made a really cool adaptation that I want to draw attention to.
Yeah?
Which is, they're going up through that left side choke, right?
Yes.
And you see Super standing on the vases to, like, the right side of that door. It's a really weird position because you can't, like, pressure him without going all the way through the door. At which point, you've got Choi Hyo-bin on the other side shooting you in the back. And it gives them a little bit of trouble on their first attack. Their second, they do something really cool, which I like, which is they completely ignore Super for about 5 seconds. They bum rush past him, force back the rest of the shock. Super is suddenly surrounded by Titans, has to try and get out, and Slime just boops him back in, and he just gets dogpiled and destroyed. They knew he was going to do the same thing. They knew how to counter it, and they came up with that plan between rounds, which that says so much about the fucking brains on everyone on that team.
Oh, yeah, no, they are mind melded.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And, like, go back and watch that, and you'll, like, see that really smart individual play. However, there's one thing they missed, like, right at the end that I think kind of cost them the map. Because second to last attack from Shock on when they're trying to take point B. They're down in ultimates. They've lost a lot of people. Choi Hyo-bin doesn't make it all the way out. He hides by the Mega just outside of that choke leading into B. And Titans don't catch him. He's got bomb active. If they took him down and staggered him, then Shock wouldn't have had a mech'd diva ready to go, and they wouldn't have had time to plan their next fight and land combos. It would have let it would have let Titans be aggressive because they know that the Shocker down one person.
But it was an oversight.
Yeah, they didn't notice him when he snuck by and hid.
And sneaking as a diva is not something you can usually do.
No, it's hard. And
Tanks don't sneak.
Props to Choi for having the wherewithal, because normally in that situation, you'll see a lot of times divas get... If a diva's the last person on your team in a fight, they will get demeched and they will get, like, bullied into a corner for as long as humanly possible until either everyone has respawned and they're starting to come back in, or the diva's about to get their mech back. At which point, you kill them, and they have to wait all that time that the diva's been staggered, plus the extra 10 seconds for the respawn.
Yeah.
And if Choi got caught in that position when he's hiding, Shock was fucked. They lost that map. But they didn't. He was alive, ready to go, rejoined his team as soon as they were able to come in, and he landed that game-winning bomb that was set up by Super Shatter in the Grav. Which, that, again, great play from Choi, big mistake from Titans, and it came down to literally one person surviving in a fight.
Yeah.
And Super doing a great job of building up that Shatter so fast.
Yeah. These are two ridiculously talented teams. And then these finals came down to, again, we were expecting NYXL, we were expecting Unstoppable Force, Immovable Object, and instead we have a dragon battle.
We have train wrecks.
Yeah.
And I love it. On Dorado, again, we talked about Super landing these big Earth Shatters that just don't get follow-up, and we see Titans doing a better job of capitalizing on point B of Dorado, which is Bumper lands a big shatter in that last fight in the point B defense. And as a unit, every single person on Titans, basically there were, I think it was Violet and Moth that were downed, but Super was up. He was able to, the shatter got landed around Super, and it was Rascal, it was Violet, it was Moth who were down. Super was able to body block for his two supports, but every person on Titans immediately melted Rascal. They took him out of the fight, denied the rally from Shock, and that means that Shock is down someone, and even if it's not a tremendous amount of value, you've secured a kill off of that ultimate.
Yeah.
Through that focus fire. And killing a Brigitte is difficult sometimes.
And you're working a 6-5 as well.
Yeah, you're working a 6-5, and you got that off of one good ultimate. Which, if you have an ultimate advantage and you've taken an ultimate away from your enemy by killing someone in the middle of it,
yeah,
that's everything you need to win a fight, really.
Yeah. Worst thing is getting wrecked in the middle of an ult animation because it spends the charge, but you don't get it.
Absolutely. And Titan's attack round had a bunch of cool little things I want to note. Which is, you'll see throughout a lot of this series up to this point, Choi Hyo-bin likes to try and find angles to get behind and put damage on the back line. And if you watch the early stages of Titan's attack round, Haksal is bullying him. He is meeting him literally in the streets. Like, chasing him around, bashing him, whipping him, preventing him from getting any sort of value from these sort of cheeky flank plays to put pressure on the back line. And this is another running theme, that Haksal is kind of a silent carry.
Well, given from what we've seen of cinematics that take place in Dorado, in the streets is a good place to have a fight.
Yeah. Another thing, we get another late trans from Violet right after Super dies on their point A defense.
Things that happen.
Yeah.
Things that need to not happen. And we have another halftime after this, right?
Yes. Halftime after this map.
Because it's bonkers and it continues to be bonkers.
Yeah.
This back and forth. I'm not sure anyone was expecting this level of back and forth. I did see some predictions that were this score, that were the 3-4 in favor of Titans, but I don't know if anyone was expecting the neck and neck 1-to-1 that we got.
It's true.
I will call BS on anyone who says they did. Because come on, you guys. We were all expecting some form of sweep or reverse sweep.
Nobody buys it, Bren.
I'll give Bren a pass. I ain't giving Monty shit.
Fair enough.
Because he is a shit. Katie has opinions. Let her tell you them.
He was perfectly nice to me when I've run into him at Guildhall, but he's a troll.
He can be nice in person, but he is hell on the internet.
Another cool play I want to point out that happened during Titan's attack round. Going into B, they knew Super had his ultimate up. And Super and Rascal hid in like that little courtyard that when you're going around that little U-bend in streets, like opposite the church. They hide in that courtyard. And Super is ready to go. So with so many juicy, squishy targets sitting down the street, I think they expected Bumper to just rush for them and leave his team open again for another big shatter from Super. But they got spotted out. Titans did something akin to what was expected, but different enough that I think it threw them, because Bumper and Haksal immediately bum rushed Rascal. Not in the back line.
Again.
They bum rush Rascal, melt him in seconds. Super shatters and hits 3. But Slime has his beat. Slime hits the beat. They literally knew that Super could hit that by zoning himself off like that. All that meant is that Titans were able to move forward, take the real estate in the center of the street, separate the shock from their back line. And even if Super hit a massive shatter, ain't nobody getting through to make anything happen with that, especially with the beat to keep everyone alive, even against counter-aggression.
Yep.
And that was a really smart play based on what they knew the enemy was going to do. And it just shows how much these teams are adapting to each other's play styles between rounds. It was, like, actually incredible.
They are intelligent and terrifying.
Yeah, it's really true. Ilios, the one that I kind of want to draw attention to, because again, there's a lot to go into here, and I want to get through this to the point where we have some time to discuss trades without this turning into another 2-hour thing.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. Specifically, Well. Vancouver, this is the first time we see them not running goats in this series.
Well, and Well is such a weird map on its own.
It is.
The death hole.
Yeah.
And it's such a big point and so difficult to capture and difficult to keep.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons I really like the comp that they brought out, which is what I call the South Korea World Cup comp, because it's what they ran on Well during the World Cup.
Is that the Orisa McCree?
The Orisa, Diva, McCree, and then Brigitte Lucio Zen. Because basically, what this is it's really good for countering dive ball. They say something about like, oh, this comp means that they're expecting more DPS. Nah, it means you're expecting dive. Because here's the thing. So, say someone, you set up on that initial
that
initial corner, and you immediately rotate to the long diagonal, which once the enemy starts to get in position to dive you, that means that they have to reposition, and you bought yourself a little bit of time, and it keeps a lot of members of the enemy team kind of separated from you, unable to really put in the work that they're going to want to. Say the Winston jumps in, flashbang, shield bash, Orisa pull, Lucio boop, Diva boop, Discord. You have so much ability to stun and melt something that comes into there.
Yeah.
And the strength of this comp is rotating, forcing your enemy to take disadvantageous fights by making them go into weird positions, by kind of kiting them around the map, and then when they do engage, beating the fuck out of whatever's on point.
Yeah.
And so they do a really good job of rotating away from the shock, stunning the members of the shock that engage, and then melting them the second they do. It's a really well-practiced comp, and I think we'll see a lot more of it on well, because when teams learn it, it's really strong. However, there's a big disadvantage to it, which is when it gets cracked, you need to switch.
Yeah.
Because Orisa's great at defense. That shield is immobile. It's strong, but it's immobile. You're not going to be able to claim space with it very easily.
Yeah.
Especially not during that approach where there are so many angles that you could be attacked from. You could be attacked from the right or the left of point. You could be jumped over the wall. You could have someone hiding in that little cubby by the mini on either side. You could be attacked from the point itself.
This is a hold the point strategy.
Yes, exactly. And you see the second Vancouver lose the point, they swap off of this comp and go onto the Winston Goats.
And that puts you at an ult economy disadvantage
because
you've lost everything you had for all of your damage dealers,
It
essentially.
does. And
depending on whether or not you consider Zenyatta to be a damage dealer. Are you NYXL or not?
I mean, every Zenyatta, like, it's become a metric by which Zenyatta's value is derived, how much damage they put out at this point.
Yeah, like, how much of a murder bot are you, in addition to being a main support?
Yeah, but, you know, Titans had a 99% advantage.
They did.
The thing is, though, Shock did a really good job of playing this Winston Goats in a reactive style, which I think kind of benefited them. They did a lot of what they did on Sanctum and Nepal, which is they rotate around once they sort of have the advantage, and you can afford to be a little passive when you have control of the point, because you have control of the point. You're not the one who needs to force the issue, especially when you have an ult advantage.
Yeah.
So they rotated around, waited for Vancouver to engage, counter dive, and then force ults. Force ults to, you know, not have Vancouver immediately lose the fight. Then they pop theirs later and get the win.
Yeah.
And basically, as soon as they got that first fight win, they hit the gas pedal. They just basically ran all the way into Vancouver's spawn during that, after they won that fight. And it just staggered out the members of Vancouver so much that they were never able to make any of their ultimates get any value.
And that's such a power play.
It is
when you destroy someone so badly that you can sit there and camp their spawn.
Yeah.
Like, that's... I don't want to say that's unusual in Overwatch League. We've seen it more than once.
Oh, yeah, especially from these two teams.
Oh, yeah. But that's not something you're going to see, I want to say, every day or even every week.
Yeah.
That's something that is very much we're running over you so badly, we're going to sit in your living room.
Yeah. So one thing that I really want to point out that was cool, like, about that fight is basically Shock had to use enough ultimates to win that fight that Vancouver actually had a little bit of an ultimate advantage after it. But the thing is, they were trickling people, and Shock was running them into spawn. Mm-hmm. If Vancouver had a second to breathe, they might have been able to make something from it. But that pressure Shock exerted meant that they had no time to recover or set anything up, and they just couldn't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
It's a really great job of what I was saying, that, like, when you're the aggressor, especially in comps like this, the onus of thinking is on whoever's having to react.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing more aggressive than invading someone's living room.
Yeah. Yeah, that just about sums it up, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's basically the scene in Us. Like...
No, this is coming out early enough.
Oh, that's in the trailer.
No, I think we're still under the spoiler warning here.
That's in the trailer that the
Good
guys
point.
come into the house.
But, again, no further discussion on Us because...
I'm not going to say it. I'm just saying it's literally the bad guy coming into your living room. There's nothing more aggro than that.
I mean, you could have gone with the call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah, but that's not as fresh.
Black Christmas.
But that's not as fresh in my mind.
No, but it's a trope.
True. Well, honestly, if I was going for that, my go-to would be Scream.
This is also true.
Yeah.
But Call is coming from inside the house originated in Black Christmas,
yes,
the original slasher movie.
It is true. Anyway.
Which is really, really fucked up.
Yeah.
Good movie. Fucked up.
Oh, God, yeah.
Watch the original, not the remake.
Again.
This has been your horror podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
on
King's Row.
On to King's Row.
The love it or hate it map, from what I can tell.
Really?
This
is the map that I think everyone loves. This is the one that I hear the least complaints about.
Oh, I've heard so many people go, I hate doing this on King's Row. I feel like it has, I think, a reputation of being one of the more balanced maps. But I've definitely heard a lot of, I'm so tired of King's Row. I hate it. I don't want to see it anymore. And I'm like, okay, but guys.
I've never heard
Junkertown. Junkertown exists. How can you hate King's Row?
Junkertown, Paris, Horizon Lunar Colony.
See, I've never actually played on Paris yet because, again, my computer is not a happy piece of hardware right now. But just Junkertown. Playing a support on attack on that opening point on Junkertown is just hell. And now they've put it in rotation, so I'm just sitting here like, oh, hey, it's the murder map that I hate.
Yep.
Time for some schadenfreude, watching other people play it. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of hate for Hanamura as well, but...
Yeah, although that one I think I have less problems with after they fixed, like, the timing of, like, respawns and... They made tweaks to make it less, like... For a long time, it was known as Drawnamura.
Yeah.
And so if the tweaks that prevent that kind of made me not hate it.
The one and only time that I've straight up hated Hanamura was playing Mystery Heroes. And I tilt on Mystery Heroes anyway. I don't like that lack of control, and I don't have a big enough hero pool to make it work. But the team we were up against had 2 Junkrats, 2 Bastions, and an Orisa defending point A.
Yeah.
There was no way, like, we needed a Junkrat or something to break it, and we were just getting nothing. So that was one of those things where it's like, why are we... I'm talking to my friends like, I know you guys want to do Mystery Heroes. I'm going to break team and go cool down because I'm tilted as fuck right now, and I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. So, yeah. In the comments, tell us your favorite and least favorite maps, and tell us why.
Okay.
I hate Junkertown because that first point as a support, not even getting to get out the door before getting gunned down. That shit's fun.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So, anyway.
King's Row.
King's Row. So this is another one where I've got I'm just making sure who attacked first because I forgot to keep track of that in my notes for this map. But... the thing that was, this one had a lot of very interesting, like, fight-winning plays that I want to go into, which is, first off, Shock's opening attack round, they immediately get a pick onto Soyman Su. They do a great job of sort of baiting Titans to be over-aggressive. But Titans does something really smart, which is they disengage. They immediately, as soon as they lose Soyman Su, back up, fall back into the hotel, and wait. They give up a tick, and then they counter, then they sort of re-engage. And basically, this prolonged, that re-engagement and being able to stop, give up a little bit, come back in, and force a longer fight. Not only did it give Soyman 2 a little time to get back, it didn't end up working, like they didn't end up recontesting and winning, but it prolonged a fight that was lost. And that's very valuable in maps like King's Row, where it's all about that time bank at the end.
Yeah.
And they may have given over some ult charge, but they lost Soyman Su in like 20 seconds. And Shock didn't get the cap until like a minute after that. Which, if you can pull that off, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Going into Streets phase, Super gets another big shatter, but once again, it gets denied because Janu throws his It's happening right at that corner with the bookstore.
Yeah.
Like right where it takes that first hard left.
Yeah.
Jianu throws his bomb out into the middle of the street and completely bisects the San Francisco Shock. Twilight kind of has a bad trance, and it allows Sinatra to immediately land his grav, but Slime lands his beat to keep everyone alive, and you get the counter grav from Soyman Su to lock the Shock away from getting that damage, and then leave them basically as a giant glowing piñata for the rest of Titans to beat on after that.
No, Dorado was 2 maps ago. We need a different map. No, I'm joking.
So this was kind of cool for me, but having the gravs come out here kind of desynced Trance and Grav for the rest of the map.
Yeah.
Basically, after that, with both gravs out, Violet didn't use his Trance, and they know that Soyman Su doesn't have Grav. So they use their Trance to get aggressive and win a fight early. But here's the thing. Soyman Su's a genetic freak, and he's not normal, despite playing the finals with a broken thumb.
This man, I swear. Like, yeah, I put the cast back on afterwards. What?
Yeah. He's able to
Things
farm
you're not
up his
supposed to do.
grav during the fight. And while Shock are chasing to get kills towards C, Soyman Su lands a grav on Sinatra, murders him, and then the Titans immediately can re-engage and win the fight before the payload gets all that far. And it was a good play from Violet. I don't want to take away from that. But man, if that doesn't say a lot about how good Soyman Su is at this hero.
Yeah.
It's insane. And the 2 Zarias in this series are by far the best in the league. It's genuinely nuts.
See, and this has me wondering what the expansion teams are going to look like when Goats is no longer the dominant meta.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of those, well, I was hoping for it for stage 2, but it's probably not going to happen, let's be real. But eventually, it can only last for so long, as any dominant meta does.
For sure.
And it makes me wonder what they're going to look like when the meta is not quite as predicated on this massive level of team cohesiveness. So I wonder about these things, because we've seen Titans be crazy on Goats, and they are ridiculously damn good at Goats.
Yeah.
But we've seen Shock on Goats, and we've also seen Shock on Dive, and we've seen them in that weird little inner rim between Dive and Goats.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where our expansion teams, where Justice, where Hunters, where Paris, where all of our different teams are once the meta changes. Yeah,
there are some that I think are definitely going to benefit from it, some that I think are going to suffer. I think Vancouver will have to relearn some things because here's the thing. Runaway was famous for being a dive team, but they had different tanks at that time.
Yeah.
Bumper kind of came in pretty much during the Goats meta. Before then, he was initially he was a Diva player, and then he was a Lucio player, and he's played everything but DPS full time in a professional capacity. It's insane, actually.
Bumper does what Bumper wants.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Haksaw's Genji's insane. We saw Stitch's McCree in their first match. Soyman Su has a mean Doomfist.
So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And then for the teams that were put together for Washington Justice, for Cheng. I think Chengdu Hunters was an assembly team, weren't they?
Chengdu is an expansion, yes.
No, I mean, instead of picking up one contenders team, they grabbed a bunch of people, much like Paris did.
They had a couple people who had played together before, but by and large,
Okay. And then Atlanta as well, especially with their very recent shape.
Atlanta almost kind of did they did something, at least their front line was a unit coming into it.
True. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing how the expansion teams react in a different meta, because we've seen, for the most part, most of these other teams in a different meta.
Yeah.
I'd say the Dragons are a completely different team and that doesn't really count.
True, although I will say that incarnation of Dragons is based off of a team called Kongdu Panthera.
Yes.
And they that incarnation of Kongdu Panthera, because there have been a ton of them, that's also where we get Fisher. They also have that incarnation hit their biggest peak during the Goats meta.
Huh.
Yeah, they actually end the Vancouver Titans forebear runaway immediately before everyone started getting signed for season 2. They were the finalists of Contenders Korea.
Yeah.
And again, go watch that match. It was fucking crazy.
So yeah.
And also, if you want to see Bumper cry tears of joy, that happens.
Oh.
It's amazing to me how Titans have gone from being like this Brock Lesnar-esque, we're gonna stomp everyone heel in Overwatch League, and they were the pink sweater wearing dorks that were everyone's favorite because they try so hard but never quite got there in like everything leading up to that. It's just such a trip for me. Anyway.
Yeah, so
getting
that
back
was a
into
nice
this.
little wander off into what if territory.
Getting back into this. So to the end of basically towards the end of Shock's attack round, last fight, they have a big ult advantage. Titans were getting close to having a lot more ults coming on in that last fight. Shock had more online, so Titans decides to go aggressive, kind of force the issue, pressure Shock into making a mistake, give themselves the room to get their ults online. One of the basically, the win condition for Shock in this case was going to be the Grav Bomb. Sinatra had his Grav online, Choi Hyobin had his bomb. Land the Grav, throw out the bomb, pin Bumper out of the way, or shield bash him, or boop the members of the Titans into the air, and you'll be able to push it into the end without much problem. However, Haksal, again, bullying Choi Hyobin. The Shock are rotating onto that sort of like high ground after that first hard left. Not the really tall one, but you know where the little stairs are? Mm-hmm. They're going over there.
Yeah.
And they're rotating up there, and Titans run into them in the middle of that rotation. And as Choi tries to fly up onto the high ground, he gets bashed by Haksal, knocked into the stairwell, and immediately demeched. He has to use his bomb to try and get himself back, to try and keep himself in the fight, because if he gets demeched and killed, Shock just loses outright.
Yeah.
But that means the bomb's going off in the stairwell. And even though the Grav lands, all Bumper has to do is just stand there because they're just grabbed half in the stairs, half not, and there's nothing anyone can do to displace that shield. The Grav Bomb gets nothing because Haksal is awesome. Suddenly, Titans has a huge ultimate advantage because Shock just had to commit 2 of theirs and got nothing. And then they were able to just grind it out without much difficulty after that. Which that's another one of those really heads-up plays on the part of Haksal, why I'm saying, like, silent carry.
Yeah.
And he does it again at the start of Titan's attack round, because they lose the first fight, Shock gets to build up a big bank of ultimates, motherfucking planes.
I think at this point we may need to bullet point the rest of King's Row, because we've got another map and we've been going for over an hour.
Honestly, like, King's Row is the one that I have the most to talk about on by far.
You've got, like, what, a page and a half?
Yes. So, basically, Shock gets to build up a big bank of ultimates, and what's really cool about this, and they show a replay of it, Bumper gets low, Haksal throws out the heal pack to keep him online, and Shock's going to push the issue. They're going to force the fight, and they're going to use Beat to get aggressive. He shield bashes Moth in the middle of the casting animation and cancels it.
Yeesh.
And part of that's on Haksal for having like a really, good awareness and heads up and using that cooldown at just the right moment, because it nearly got off. But also, Moth. You tried to use Sound Barrier directly in front of a Brigitte.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on Moth too. The last play that I really kind of want to focus on is during Vancouver's attack run. They get into streets, they manage to get a good snowball, and they see Sinatra going around the stairs just past the bookshop to go into that little open window. Soimansu sees him, chases him up there, and for some reason they both grab each other. So Sinatra grabs Soimansu in that little window, whereas Sinatra has backed up towards the stairs, and Soimansu grabs him there. Here's the thing. The payloads hit that second little corner.
Yeah.
Shock's coming in, Titans are coming in. Titans are on the payload. Shock are not. There is the entire Vancouver Titans team between Sinatra and Help.
Yikes.
So they annihilate him. His grab gets 0 value. Soyman Su is able to be healed and protected by his teammates. And basically, Soyman Su is able to melt Shock from the uncontested high ground, even though they lose some people in that fight, and they're able to grind it out from there. Super and Violet get nothing for their ultimates immediately afterwards, because Soyman Su totally untouched. Yeah, and that's kind of the last one that I want to get into, other than the fact that Violet lands a big... that Violet tries to go for a big trance, and Slime boops him off the map, like, towards the end. It's so good.
Yeah, when it opens up into that pit of death.
Yeah. Actually, there is... Yeah, and this was after another really good fight, where Titans... Basically... Violet gets caught... The last fight was really cool, because Janu throws out his bomb, and Violet... There's too much similarity in those names.
Yeah.
Violet is caught out of position. He's not in a position where Super can block for him, so he has to use his trance to stay alive. And when that happens, you want to go aggressive. Take advantage of the fact that you have a virtually bottomless health pool.
Yeah.
And rush in. Titans, knowing that, they immediately speed boost back. Immediately disengage, let that run out, come back in, and land a huge shatter that gives them the space to use their transcendence aggressively and dogpile in with their own virtually bottomless health pool. It's another really smart play, where Vancouver has the intelligence to be like, okay, they've used this. If we just wait, if we take our foot off the gas pedal, back up, and then come back in, that is a free fight for us.
Yeah.
And again, this was almost Shock was almost able to pull it out, because Violet farms up that trance in the middle of that fight. But again, booped off the map by Slime.
Yeah.
Which was just one of those things of like, they almost held that.
Environmental kills. Mm-hmm. They are a hell of a thing in Overwatch.
Yeah. Rialto. I know this looks like a lot, but it's not.
Rialto's all left turns.
Kind of.
With some right turns thrown in, so we're not going in circles, but it's all like 90-degree angles and some boats.
Basically, there's two things I want to draw a lot of attention to on the attack round for Shock, which is, first off, you see the Titans start off with Winston instead of Ryan, which implies that they were expecting some sort of DPS.
Yeah.
Not correct. And you see as soon as Bumper dies, he swaps. Another play that was absolutely awesome. As soon as Shock gets through point A, after a really messy fight, basically, they're able to get up into that high ground, the tunnel in the building, and they bait Titans into them, land a grab, and they're just able to cleave into the entire Vancouver Titans team and get through almost all of B by just committing one ultimate.
Yeah, they had a hell of an attack run on this map.
Because you don't always complete Rialto.
Yeah, one does not simply complete Rialto.
Yeah.
It's all left turns.
Mm-hmm. And again, Shock did a really good job on their attack. There was one play that was really sloppy where just getting into B, they land, a grab gets landed by Titans. Bumper goes for the pin. They boot Bumper and he gets kind of knocked up into that little overpass. Shock did nothing, despite the fact that Bumper had a shatter.
Yeah.
And immediately won the fight for the Titans. However, Shock completes Rialto with like a minute and a half in the bank, which is a really respectable time bank, because again, you don't always finish that map.
It's Rialto.
However, for the first time in the entire series, Vancouver Titans starts playing like Vancouver Titans the entire rest of it. And they smash the attack record on Rialto. They completed, they beat the record, which they set against Seoul, by over a minute.
Yep.
It is insane. They Shock absolutely, yeah, they absolutely collapse under the pressure. Someone gets isolated and then killed by Vancouver. Shock then commits some ultimate that gets no value. They all die, rinse and repeat. And it just over and over and over again. And it seems like they just had a complete mental collapse at how quick that point A gets taken. And another big play from Haksal coming into C. Janu, as Shock's backing up, Janu throws out his bomb. Haksal bashes Super, who immediately gets melted, but that removes the barrier protecting, I think it was Sinatra and Violet. So what would have been a bomb that would have gotten nobody, Super gets killed, and then the bomb gets a double kill. And it was a really good opportunistic play that they just took advantage of that mad scramble backwards.
Yeah.
On their second attack, you could tell that Shock was scared.
Yeah.
They were playing so passively for so long.
Not something you can do against the Titans.
No, it's not. And like the thing is, they sat on their ultimates for so long. And I know that I've extolled the virtues of like being smart about using your ultimates in terms of counterplay. But if you're the one with your back up against the wall, you need to try and make something happen.
You got to come out swinging.
Yeah. And I'm not saying just throw out your ultimates for nothing.
No.
But Sinatra had his grav for like almost 40 seconds before he used it.
Which is a hell of a lot in a map and also for Super.
Yeah, it was so long.
I mean, hell, he's built gravs in that time, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's built gravs faster than that, yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically they build up this war chest of ultimates, but because they're forced back so far, they have to commit a ton of them to counter the ults used by Vancouver, and that just leaves them at a disadvantage that immediately loses them the next fight.
Yeah.
And so they just don't get it. They don't get the cap on A. Meanwhile, Titans have 4.5 minutes
to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and again, Shock plays very passively. Vancouver gets to pick their fights at will, and Shock doesn't make use of any ultimate advantages or positional advantages that they get. This reactive play, like, barely wins them a fight right at the bridge, but Vancouver just uses their ults really aggressively the next fight, and it's over.
I'm wondering if, because looking at this and putting these pieces together, every time Vancouver won a map, then they'd go to halftime, and they'd have a little bit of time to regroup, and then they'd come in and take the next map. So I wonder if not having a break after this 6th map is part of what wrecked them.
Well, I want to point out, Shock, so Nepal's first, Numbani's second, then halftime, then Shock wins 3.
Yeah, and then Vancouver wins 4, and then halftime, and then Shock wins 5, Vancouver wins 6, no halftime, they go immediately into 7. So I'm wondering if having that little bit of time to stop and regroup every time Titans took one was what they needed to kind of be like, all right, okay, we got this. Let's continue. Yeah. And if not having that helped contribute to this, I have no idea.
It could be part of it, but I think some of it also comes down to the fact that Kings Row was match point.
Yeah.
If they won that, they won the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they came very close.
Oh, yeah.
When you're like starting off the series and when you're in the lead the entire time pretty much, because basically Vancouver didn't pull ahead until they won.
Yeah.
Shock won the first one, Vancouver second, so 1-1. Shock gets the 2-1 lead, Vancouver ties it up. Shock pulls ahead again by beating Vancouver on a map that Vancouver hasn't lost on. They had to feel like they had this. They had to feel like they were in such a strong position. But then they lose on Kings Row by a narrow margin.
Yeah.
And that's when you see the cracks start to show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you think you have something and then it's like, oh, wait, no, one more map. And you're like, oh.
Wrap up talking points on the finals here. Super had an amazing performance with a lot of clutch plays, repeatedly landed huge shatters that capitalized really nicely on Bumper's over-aggression, but his team was rarely able to capitalize on them. Either they weren't ready or Vancouver just reacted better, and Vancouver also did a better job of reacting to Bumper's shatters. Vancouver stumbled when Shock took the initiative, but when Vancouver was able to get into the driver's seat, they were really able to sort of take charge. when Shock takes initiative, they were able to punish Bumper's aggressive play early on, land those big shatters, and they may not have always had value, but that consistency is kind of scary, and it forced the Titans to kind of reconsider their approach. You see them be a little more careful.
And they haven't really had to do that for most players. I think
they've even been pushed Eamon, they were still playing really aggressive into him when he was just slapping Bumper around during the Chengdu match.
Yeah, and they've been pushed to map 5 twice, I want to say. Yeah. Once with Chengdu and once with, God, who else? I know it was someone else. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. It was Guangzhou, but part of that, I think, came down to the fact that they had Stitch starting over Soimin Su, and Stitch isn't quite as good at Zarya as Soimin Su is.
But still, map 5 against Chengdu was a thing.
Yeah. Vancouver's supports are gods, and they were able to consistently get just a little more value than their counterparts on the Shock, especially Twilight, who I think I never had a moment where I'm looking at that and I'm like, no, what are you doing? Whereas with Violet, I was just repeatedly like, why? Haksal, watch him if you want to see how a good Brig is played, because his performance in this series was insane. He was playing out of his mind. He was always Johnny on the spot whenever his team needed him to be. And he canceled ultimates, shut down enemies, and did so much to enable his teammates.
Which is what you want a good Brigitte to do.
Mm-hmm. Choi Hyobin also did a really good job for Shock, especially on Nepal and Anubis. I feel like his cheeky positioning started to get punished later on when Vancouver kind of picked up on it. And you'll see it on Dorado the most, where Haksal is just chasing him with a rolled up newspaper the entire map.
I mean, you can only do cheeky positioning so often before the other team's like, all right, he's going over there.
Yeah,
go get him.
Pretty much.
In much the same way that you check your corners when you're playing against Bumper, because you learn.
Yes,
especially with 7 maps. You learn.
Yeah. Soimin Su and Sinatra, best Zaryas in the league, and it's absolutely insane. Especially, I feel like Sinatra, the fact that he dies a little more often than Soimin Su, yet is still able to farm up so much charge and build up those grabs so often and still out-damage Soimin Su despite dying more often, is insane.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Sinatra's usually DPS, isn't he?
Tracer, but he's also known for his Zarya.
Okay.
Those are the two that he's really famous for.
Okay.
And everyone, I think, who followed him enough prior to the league to know about his Zarya knew that it was scary, but I don't think anyone knew it was this scary.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I feel like Soimin Su was able to get more value out of his grabs. And whether that's just better coordination on the part of his team or having a better sense of when to pull the trigger, I feel like Soimin Su, despite Sinatra doing more damage and farming more grabs, Soimin Su's got more done. But again, that's such a threadbare margin, and you could give either of these two the best Zarya in the league crown, and it just...
It would be fitting. It would be fitting.
And lastly, Vancouver proved they have the mental toughness to withstand kind of being taken to their limits on the Overwatch League stage. Shock showed their ability to improve over the course of the stage, because they started rocky, but they got so much better over the course of it. And by the end of it, they can hang with pretty much anyone in the league. We have to watch them in the future.
Oh, yeah.
And... They had a great game plan on how Titans like to play. They had a great game plan on how to counter it, and they executed well on it for the majority of the game. The thing is, Titans just adapted better to their style than I think Shock did to what Titans was doing. You saw Titans make more adjustments to counter the plays of Shock.
Yeah.
And also... Titans just made less mistakes, but that's a very slim margin. And Shock, despite, I will say, it broke my heart because I was there and I was screaming my head off when when Titans won. And then I see the Shock players, Sinatra's just fucking face down on his desk. Super is holding back tears. It's just I felt so bad because they put everything they had into this.
Well, and it's losing, and it's losing on map 7, which is something, but also, at the very end,
Losing on
they
map 7
just
after
lost
being in the
it.
lead the entire time.
And then knowing that your last round of play was not your
Was
best.
just a mental boom. They completely collapsed, and it's brutal. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's my breakdown of the Overwatch League Stage 1 finals.
It only took us about as long as it took them to play the finals. It did not. I'm making fun of you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, before we move on to the rest of the podcast, because that was not all of the podcast.
It took me about 5 hours to get all these notes down, so I hope you guys appreciate the work that I do for this.
Yes. But before we move on to the rest of the podcast, and now you know the rest of the story.
Yes.
We have a word from our sponsor. And as always, we are sponsored by Fred's BS. Breads and spreads by Fred. Fred's BS is an LA local one-man baked goods business that offers unique flavors in small batches. Whether you're looking for homemade jams, brownies, blondies, or brown sugar buddies, the best cookies you've ever had, Fred's BS can provide. All products are made in small batches with fresh ingredients, nothing is ever frozen, and Fred provides a plethora of flavors that can't be found in stores, like the aforementioned brown sugar buddies or his strawberry peach paradise sunrise jam. Also, if you're LA local, you can choose pickup instead of delivery and get your goods even sooner. Head to fredsbs.com and use coupon code ONTHEPOINT for 20% off your entire order. That's fredsbs.com, fredsbs.com, and coupon code ONTHEPOINT. Fred's BS. Treat yourself, because you deserve it.
And you know what? After we're done recording, I'm probably going to have a drink and just end up on his website at some point tonight.
You know what he's doing for LA locals? Pie.
Oh, you mentioned this last time and I forgot.
Yep.
Fuck
If
me.
you are local, you can do pie for pickup. He's still working on a way to ship it. But follow the Fred's BS Instagram. Keep an eye on the website. There are more pie updates there. Mm-hmm. But, oh yeah, no, he had me try the apple pie. And oh my goodness, that cinnamon blend is unbelievably good. And I'm pretty sure he made that crust from scratch.
You need to,
and it made me cry.
You need to stop.
So yeah, 20% off your order with coupon code ONTHEPOINT at fredsbs.com. Treat yourselves, y'all. Just treat yourselves. Get you some snacks to bring to your watch parties to watch these matches.
I'm hungry now.
I regret nothing. I regret nothing.
You shouldn't.
I never do.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, roster moves, that other part of what we talk about.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that our initial plans, the initial date that I threw out to record this was on Monday, the 1st. And it didn't work because of scheduling. And looking back at it, I can't believe I ever suggested that date, and I'm very glad that we didn't record this on Monday the 1st, because there's no way we would have been able to sift through all of the pranky bullshit.
So much has happened in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
And so much has happened that right now I'm literally pulling up the news to see if anything has happened while we're recording.
Because the last time that happened, DeFran pulled something.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pulling up there is a really good tracker on .esports right now, written by Liz Richardson. She's Ms. Liz on Twitter, and she's just the absolute best. She's a great esports writer. So, yeah, if you head to .esports, there's a bullet point version of all of this fun, ridiculous stuff, and it doesn't look like there's anything new.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the last that one.
Yeah,
So,
there's a rumor that
cool.
I'm 37 is going to be joining Toronto, but that is not confirmed, so I'm not going to report on that just yet. However, I am mentioning that there's a rumor, so we have our bases covered.
Rumor has it.
Yes. However,
I will say,
confirmed.
We have such a long-ass list of confirmed, y'all.
Yes.
Let's roll.
First off, the one we mentioned before, DeFran retires from Overwatch League.
I have to stop calling it DeFranta now.
Yeah. Sad for that reason and for a lot of his fans, but he talked a lot on his stream about how often he wanted to quit. And prior to Overwatch League, like after, I think it was Selfless that he was on,
He just never really wanted to be
Yeah,
a pro
he disliked
in
being
terms of
on a
esports.
team and
Yeah.
having to do all that stuff. And that's why kind of when he joined at all, it was a surprise. And why if you look back at like Reddit threads and Twitter threads from around that time, everyone's like, but what if he does? He fucking won't. What if he does? He won't.
And
like,
here's what I'm wondering, in terms of the fans, how many people who were Atlanta fans are going to jump ship now that he's left? How many of them were only in it for DeFran?
they have kept him on as a streamer for
This
their
is true.
org.
This
So
is true.
I don't think it's going to be kind of like the XQC thing where there is some loss of fan base after his departure, especially because he's leaving on good terms with the team and everything.
Yeah. It wasn't behavioral issues,
Yeah.
despite the fact that he has still proven that he continues to have some problematic views, but
He's been better behaved than I expected him to be.
this is true. However, I can't excuse the transphobia. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
DeFran.
and that's something that in gamer culture in general just needs to go the fuck away.
In culture in general,
Oh, yeah.
just needs to go
I'm
the
saying
fuck away.
I'm saying in like gamer culture especially though, there's those slurs that are both homophobic and transphobic get thrown around as insults a lot more readily than I think they do in other spaces.
Yeah.
And it might not be said with that intent, but you need to know the words that you're fucking using.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, just everyone, take a second, think about what those words said and how many people have heard those used in super hateful ways, and just realize that maybe you could insult someone a different way that's not also insulting an entire group of people who already deal with way more shit.
It's more fun to be creative if you call them an absolute coat hanger or an untoasted walnut or a raw slab of meat. Like, those have so much hitting power because you just sit there and go, did you just call me a coat hanger? What?
Just go watch the thick of it and watch Peter Capaldi curse in your ears for like 3 hours. You'll come up with so much better material.
Some people on Twitter are also really... Untoasted walnut was one that I came up with people bitching about, oh, I love paladins, I love D&D paladins, I hate Brigitte. Fuck you, she's a paladin. You untoasted walnut.
Anyway. It was kind of a surprise that DeFran joined the Overwatch League at all, but based on everything he said, he seems to be happy that he tried it, enjoyed the experience, but it's ultimately not for him, and he's back to streaming full-time under the Atlanta banner.
Yeah.
Atlanta has made some moves of their own to try and fill the DeFran-shaped hole in their roster. The first one, they pick up Funny Astro, formerly of the British Hurricane, to play for their academy team on a 2-way contract, so they can bring him up for some games next stage.
And hopefully they won't run into the issue that we ran into with fusions.
Yeah, but the thing is, they have Masa, who's awesome. Funny Astro is a main support player. He's known for having an amazing Lucio. Has hit #1 global multiple times.
Wow.
He's awesome, and he's a great pickup. They have Masa, so they've got a good player in there. It's not gonna be like fusions, where you sign him in the hopes of immediately promoting him after the season of Contenders ends. Or at least I don't see it being that way.
Okay.
They also, coming in from Contenders, have picked up, I don't know if it's pronounced Fred or Fried, because I know he went by Fried Wiener in the past.
Glad
FRD.
he doesn't anymore.
FRD from Gladiators Legion, though he's a little better known for his time playing in Second Wind. He's an off-tank player, Diva and Zarya. He's pretty good from everything I've heard. I haven't seen too much of him play just because Second Wind wasn't a team that I followed very closely in Contenders, and I only have so much time for research.
Yeah.
I had to stop the screaming. However, the big one, they get Baby Bay from the San Francisco Shock.
Yeah, this is the one that, to forgive the pun, shocked a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Like, I hesitate to say that Baby Bay was like the poster boy for the Shock, but he was definitely one of the best.
He was one of the fan
players.
favorites.
Oh, absolutely. Baby Bay is the Bay's Bay was the best sign that I've seen for that. And so a lot of people were like, he did what now? He went where?
Here's the
He
thing.
left us?
I'm not surprised, though. Like, I'm a little bit surprised they went for him over, like, other options they could have pursued. But I'm sure that as a pro player who wants to, play, he's not super happy being permabenched by Shock. And Shock, what do they get from him that Striker, Architect, Rascal, and Sinatra don't already do? And arguably better.
Yeah.
So I think this is a move, helps Atlanta sort of get back on their feet, gives them a new fan favorite to sort of help their brand. It gives Baby Bay an opportunity to play, and, Shock has an extra roster slot and, some whatever buyout cash to play around with and see if there's another move that they want to make. And I think it's kind of something that is good for everyone.
All right.
Toronto Defiant. They also lose a player to retirement in the form of Stellar.
And he straight up went home, didn't he?
Yeah, he just retired and decided he's done. Although I wonder how quickly this decision was made, because the season's starting pretty soon.
Yeah.
Like, tomorrow.
I wonder when it was made versus when it was announced.
Yeah.
Or if it's been one of those, will he, won't he, and then he finally made the decision, and then they were able to announce it.
Yeah, so either Asher's going to pick up the Brig, because I feel like Ivy's too good on the Zarya to really, rotate him off that spot, or we're going to see a quick pickup that's going to be announced very shortly to fill that spot.
Yeah, because the matches start tomorrow.
Yes.
I should know. I'm going to be there.
Yes. Toronto also released their strategic coach, Don, who used to be part of the Valiant and the team that they were before they were the Valiant, Immortals. I don't know why they let him go. They did very well.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a weird one. And from what it seems like they let him go instead of him wanting to leave, which that's an interesting choice.
So the question is then whether they did well because of him or in spite of him.
Yeah.
And we don't know that.
We have no way of knowing until we see their performance next stage.
Yeah.
Washington also released a coach, joining on that bandwagon, getting rid of Obasil, formerly of Sky Foxes, and before that, last night's Leftovers, two Contenders NA teams. They were two of the non-academy teams. Last night's Leftovers actually made a very deep run. They were one of the first non-academy teams to really do well in Contenders once that was sort of the structure of academy and then, amateur teams.
Mm-hmm.
So they let him go.
So who's coaching?
It's still Wizard Kong. Wizard
Okay.
Kong's still head coach, and they still have Avala.
Okay.
And
someone else.
Yeah. Which is interesting to me because this team has a lot of issues, and I don't know how much getting rid of a guy as opposed to bringing some people in to change the mentality around. I don't know.
But it's a thing that's in sports, and I'm not surprised it's in esports. You have a season like that, the coach goes.
Yeah, but he wasn't the head coach, so I'm wondering how much input he had and how much of the decision making was his, or if he's getting scapegoated a bit.
Who knows?
We don't know.
We don't.
However, they have made a roster pickup in the form of Ark from NYXL, who was originally rumored to be going over there with Jonas.
Which is interesting, because it's NYXL.
Yeah, but they have Animo.
This
and
is also true.
They haven't run Ark at all. They've just been running Animo.
It's more to the point that in terms of team status, you've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Well, same for Jonas.
Yeah.
So, Ark over there as well, and I'm kind of glad because he and Jonas are apparently the best friends.
Okay.
So it's nice to have them there. Have those two be sort of a core to kind of build your team around. And Fozix made a post on Twitter about being home in Pennsylvania, which he's either released or permabenched, and we haven't really heard anything from Washington one way or the other.
I mean, do they get vacation days? Is he there to see his family?
He said he's going to be there and focus a lot more on improving himself and streaming.
Oh boy.
Which sounds a lot like I'm
not on the
getting
team.
played. Yeah, at the very least, they do not plan to play me.
But I mean, if they're permabench, they're still around. Just look at Custa.
Yeah.
But Custa's also been doing.
He's just too smart for this meta.
Custa is also one of the. I hesitate to say he's the main content maker on the team, but
yeah,
he's a lot of I don't want to be like, he's the face of the Valiant.
He kind of is.
He kind of is.
It's him and then Agilities and Kariv having the most adorable yet questionable friendship.
I will straight up say that I do think the Valiant makes some of the best YouTube content out there between Custa News Network and Gamer Snacks.
Oh, they do?
They're hysterical.
And Washington makes none.
They need to make some.
They're
That's part of the fun.
Have you ever watched their social media?
No.
Like the Twitter?
I follow their manager's Twitter.
The actual Twitter account?
No.
You can tell that some of that stuff is made in MS Paint. It is so clown shoes.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you're going to make something in MS Paint, you lean into it.
They did that once.
Oh,
and then the rest of the time, it's been like there was one time where they just didn't properly crop an image and there was a whole bunch of unused space and shit.
There's this image program called GIMP. It's a Photoshop alternative, and it's free use. And, like, not even free use as a code for piracy. It's literally free. So,
but it looks like they had the intern do it for fun on his lunch.
Hey, Washington, hire me as your social media human.
Hire both of us.
I can do it.
Hire both of us.
Actually, I have a friend who just finished her master's and is looking to get into esports. So it's like, hey, Washington, hire this human.
Yeah, legitimately. Like, I know who you're talking about too. So,
yeah. No names, but yeah.
Yeah.
Very proud of this friend.
Yes.
For finishing their master's.
Yes. Because that's hard.
That is.
And it's only getting harder.
And they did it while they were working as well.
Yeah.
It's hard shit to do.
Anyway,
Washington needs better social media management and some meme generation and do some. They don't even have to be good videos. You can do like shaky cam home video.
Honestly, that has its own charm.
The newest Marvel trailer released. Do a reaction video with this. Like, have them just do a reaction video. Just do what
Mayhem did.
People like that shit.
Remember Mayhem just eating Girl Scout cookies for the first time? That video was.
So many teams also have such and such a team tries Korean snacks, where the Korean players are laughing their asses off, and all of the non-Korean players are like, "What in the seven hells did I just put in my mouth?" It's funny.
Seriously though. Everyone listening to this, go watch Mayhem Tries Girl Scout Cookies because it's one of the funniest. It just ends with Swoosh being, "Thank you for watching Girl Cookies with Mayhem," and Zebasai just, "Girl Scout Cookies. Girl Scout Cookies with Mayhem. It's a very strong show." Like, he's selling it as the video's ending. It's so good.
See, and I love Gamer Snacks. I love Custa News Network. I think there's this running joke with this really, really creepy Mercy doll that they keep putting on the desk and taking off the desk at viewer request. And the theme of the show is, and he always ends with, "And remember, this is your fault."
Yes.
Like, they do such good. They did a Twilight Zone video making fun of themselves about Stage 1.
Also, the Office parody.
Yes, the Office parody for the team.
We gotta refocus.
Anyway,
for your sake more than anyone's.
Good social media content is a good thing to have for a team. Some teams are great. Some teams probably should hire some people.
Yes. But speaking of teams firing people, Paris releases Damon, former Los Angeles Valiant coach and coach of Team France in the recent World Cup, and has promoted, I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm going to just say Fefe.
Looks like it with the accents.
Yeah, Fefe. Head coach of Eagle Gaming, the Winders.
De Winders.
De Winders.
De Winder.
Helicopter outside my winder.
Ermagerd Winder.
The winners of Contenders Europe Season 2, who is one of their strategic, I think he was their player development coach. He's the new head coach now. Damon has been released, but he has been picked up by the Dallas Fuel as a tank coach.
Now, didn't they release him yesterday and then Fuel announced they hired him like 6 hours ago? Or something ridiculous
something like that? But
that?
I imagine the deals were kind of made well before that.
Oh, yeah. But they're dumping all of this on us. They had to wait for April Fool's Day to pass, and then they dump all of this the 48 hours leading up to the beginning of Stage 2.
Yes.
Like,
Dallas picks up Damon as a tank coach, which to me is kind of interesting given the uneven tank play of Paris being one of their problems, and the decisions to consistently start Ben Best over the consistent better tank on the team, LH Cloudy, which is like, he was head coach at the time. You assume he was the one making that decision.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Dallas, as they have acquired new coach Damon, have had one of their coaches leave, which is Coco, the former main tank for Dallas Fuel when they were Team Envious.
Did he leave or was he let go?
He left.
Okay.
He said, he's happy. He just, time to do something new. He's going back home to Sweden. And that makes me really sad because Coco was like, he's one of the OG members of that roster. He was there during their initial success and was a big part of them being the first Western esports team to win a tournament in Korea. And then, he was an integral part of that team when they were the undoubted best in the world. And it makes me so sad to see him go because him and Fraggy are, two of the reasons I started playing Reinhardt.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. Love you, Coco.
Aw.
Anyway, Dallas and Boston also made a trade, which Dallas puts up RCK and in turn receives Note.
Okay.
Which is kind of surprising to me. It's interesting on both sides because RCK was really good for Dallas. They played him on Sombra over Diva, and I wonder if there was some performance issue that they're trading him for. Which,
I was going to say, what do they gain by getting Note?
You get one of the best divas, someone who's really good at assassinating Zenyatta's, and also someone who's worked with assistant coach Jane before.
There you go.
Because Jane was the head coach of Team Canada, and Note famously on Team Canada.
There you go.
It's just a trade that I wouldn't expect either side to make, considering how good these players have been for their rosters. I can see why one might want the other. RCK is a good diva who's also a really good Sombra. Meanwhile, Note, really good off-tank as well. I can see why both might want the other. I just don't see why they're giving the other up,
Yeah. Looking at shoring up their holes more than anything else.
Yeah. Boston also made another pickup in the form of Persia, who is a flex support from Talon Esports in Contenders Pacific. Talon Esports is a team that has kind of had middling results, but Persia has always been one of the best parts of their roster. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits onto Boston's lineup. He's really good, but he's in the same spot as Aim God. So Are they bringing him in as a sub? Are they going to try and have a support rotation and have Alema and Persia and then Aim God and Calyx and
maybe
kind of experiment on that front? Who really knows? I will say one thing that's interesting about the pickup of RCK. I mentioned LH Cloudy before. RCK and LH Cloudy were Team Gigante's frontline together back in Contenders Europe. They've played together for a long time. And if Boston is still looking to trade fusions for someone, which is insane to me, you could do worse than reuniting that frontline from Team Gigante.
True. Speaking of Boston trading fusions, let's get the elephant in the room.
The Boston versus Valiant. The Boston Valiant.
It kind of was at the end.
It was. The Boston Valiant trade of fusions and asking for Fate and KSF broke down in the 11th hour. Rumored was pretty much going to go through, but a lot of issues kind of led to that trade breaking down, and a lot of those issues can be laid at the feet of the Valiant. At least from what Halo of Thoughts has reported.
Yeah, I will say that an article crossed my dash today, took a look at it, and the end of the article said that at the time of publication, which was earlier today, neither team had been available for comment. So this is all, we know the trade fell through. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is, I don't want to say it's hearsay, but we have no statement from either team.
The rest of it is all secondhand sources. So.
Yes.
And it's coming from reliable people, like people in the Overwatch community journalists who have generally been good and have been reliable and all that before.
Yeah.
So, first hurdle is that the Valiant didn't disclose details about the contract of their players, and the one that was cited specifically was KSF's contract. They didn't mention that his salary scaled over time by the rules of that contract, and then there was a clause for him receiving a starting bonus in games where he was part of the starting roster. They didn't mention that to Boston, and Boston didn't know until they got the contract. And that was a bit of a hiccup, as Boston's like, hey, this isn't...
This is a little different than what we talked about.
Yeah, this is different than what we talked about. This was eventually smoothed over. It looked like the deal was going to go through. But then the fact that it was happening got leaked, and players on both sides got a little bit antsy, and morale took a dip, considering none of them knew this trade was being brokered, including the players involved.
Which is the thing.
Yeah, and especially for Boston, Fusions is such a huge part of that team.
Yeah.
Like, he's their main shot caller. Kellex has basically said on record, oh yeah, we just kind of listen to Fusions just tells us exactly what to do because he just knows so much more than all the rest of us. He's just such an amazing player and shot caller.
And that might be why Valiant wanted him, especially after the season they had.
Yeah.
When they didn't play one of their main shot callers for most of the season.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure out that strategy.
It's true. But yeah, the players got a little antsy, and maybe that had something to do with Boston's playoff performance being a little subpar, like everyone kind of being a little down. Who knows?
Yeah. You never know what the mental state has to do with any of it.
Yeah. Both orgs came clean, told their players to avoid any morale issues, and once again it looked like things were going to be going forward. Packing 10, new head coach of the Valiant, or interim head coach I should say, made a personal phone call to asking, kind of like talking to him about being part of the team and all that. KSF tweeted about it, and literally an hour before the end of Fusion's farewell dinner with the Boston Uprising, Valiant called it off.
Yeah.
Apparently they weren't happy with the value they were receiving for that trade, which is...
And at this point, I have to wonder who they encompasses.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we're looking at coaching or if we're looking at management.
Coaching, management, players, fan reaction to this getting out.
Supposedly, fan reaction was a chunk of it.
Yeah, and I could see it being part of it. I mean, especially... Although I would think Boston would be getting more of it because, like, Fusions is like the linchpin of that team as it currently exists. And, like... Huck has been so good at scouting talent that it's hard not to see him having some sort of plan. But at the same time...
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird move to let go of this player that's been a key to your success and everyone seems to love.
You say this like this past stage wasn't full of weird moves.
Yes and no. Like, I could see the logic behind most of them. Like, I could see why a lot of them happen. Like, why someone would want to pick up someone or release someone else or whatever. This one I don't really get on Boston's end. Like, I can see wanting more potential with KSF. Like, maybe KSF is someone that they were looking to and really saw potential in because they've been all about finding players and really developing them.
Yeah. And KSF doesn't get as much play on the Valiant.
Or any. But...
I wonder if that isn't because of the starting fee.
Maybe, but that's in his contract, and they're the ones who offered it to him.
Yep. Who knows? Valiant is a whole lot of who knows right now. Let's be completely real.
It's true. And so one of the things, like, this is one of those things that just hurt, I think, both teams quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I think it maybe puts a dent in people, like, the esteem people who aren't already Valiant fans hold the Valiant in. If this is true and they just basically kind of pulled out of a verbal agreement that, you know, that they had drawn up the contracts and everything for, like, literally in the last hour before that trade went through, doesn't look like a great set of decisions.
It doesn't. And I'm wondering what the press releases on both sides are going to look like. Because I don't think that you're going to get out of this without some press releases.
I'm going to refresh Reddit in case someone has said something. Because maybe they have. Oh, well, this is something I'm going to talk about in a moment. But...
It doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it.
I would imagine that it would be something that will happen after this first week of play.
Oh, well, we got some news from Stellar. Stellar actually posted on Twitter I am truly sorry to announce my sudden retirement news to all my fans and friends. I have made my decision due to some personal stress issues from mental and general lifestyle-wise. Again, I want to thank all the fans who supported me. Thank you so much. And we're big proponents of mental health here. If it's the decision he had to make for himself, then that's good. We also see Thibbledork is saying that apparently Mayhem and Valiant both
still
have some moves to make.
Interesting.
So we'll see what comes of those.
But again, this is also currently unconfirmed.
Yeah.
Thibbledork is pretty solid.
Yeah, and I've met the guy. He's great.
Yeah.
But, so I have to say the loser in all of this, though, is Asking. Because if you've looked at his Twitter today, this man is so fucking depressed. Like, he has...
You want to be in the league? You want to be in the league? And when the coach from the team that you're going to be on
gives you a personal phone call.
And I have to wonder if Packing 10, didn't know either.
I don't think he did.
It makes me think that he was not in on the decision to pull out and that this was managerial.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Or owner or something.
Also, this looked so sure that Boston's academy team already got a replacement for Asking. And so now, not only does he have to go from knowing this was a sure thing to getting his fucking dream of getting to OWL yanked out from underneath him, he has to go back to playing Tier 2 and splitting time with someone else.
He got fucked.
He got fucked so hard.
And I just, it's...
He's been on Twitter today being like, they literally fucking broke me. I've been crying all day.
Oh,
and it's
honey.
Dude, I am so sorry.
And it's so hard to look at an organization because you look at this and go, the this, the that, this team, that team. And it's hard to look at the players separately from the coaches, separately from the management decisions.
Separate from the corporate ownership.
Because it's all under this umbrella of the Valiant.
Yeah.
And they are still my favorite team, but it's so hard to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm a Valiant fan without going, oh my actual God, what is their management doing right now? I mean, I imagine this is what being a Patriots fan is like. You put your head in the sand and love your players.
Welcome to Dallas. Because that was all the season fucking one.
Yeah.
That was all the season fucking one.
I love you, my players. What are the owners doing? What is... And it is really a question of who made these decisions.
Yeah.
Like, I know the players aren't in on negotiating trades, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if coaches are or to what extent coaches are.
I don't think Packing 10 was.
I don't think so either. I wonder if he's still not being considered an interim coach as opposed to a head coach.
I think
they're still scouting.
I think so, especially because Valiant and Immortals are always one of those teams that I think more than others have kind of had kind of a corporate mentality to how they're run.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it do not.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to have efficiency in the bottom line and management and all that kind of thought about. But at the same time, it leads to some stuff like this where it seems really uncool to the community and the individuals. And on the opposite end, you got Houston where it's super, I don't want to be an asshole and say nepotism or anything like that, but it's basically everyone there is there. A lot of moves are made or not made because of how much they like the people involved.
Houston plays a little bit more like this is the family that's here to have fun.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
And I think that's why their fan base is the way it is. And the Houston fan base is such a loving group of people.
Yeah.
And they get shat on by other fans so much. Being a Houston fan is an immediate target on your back for no reason that I can discern.
Well, the thing is, cute and wholesome to internet communities or things that come off that way are immediately branded as, oh, that shit's cringe. It's immediately, annoying and, you're trying too hard to be all, fucking kawaii ooh or whatever.
We also get a lot of, oh, you don't actually like Houston. You just think the boys are cute. I'm please sit down and also shut up.
Boys are cute or fan because Muma is openly gay and somehow having an openly gay guy is automatically pandering or something.
You say that I relate to this person, therefore I am a fan of them, is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how celebrity culture works.
Yeah.
That's totally how celebrity culture works.
People will always, like, when anything is just enthusiastic and heartfelt, especially in online communities, people will try and point at things and say, oh, yeah, that's not fucking legitimate. But, like...
Well, and here's the other thing. A lot of outspoken Houston fans are women.
Yes.
And it's for women, therefore it's bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Houston just has like this Venn diagram of factors where people immediately hate them and their fans for literally no reason than internalized misogyny and we do real video games here. Like, this is your cartoon hero shooter.
Yeah.
One of your main characters is a hamster in a robot that he built because he's smart and from the moon. Like, guys.
Pretty much. And, like, me personally, I just don't like Flame. Like, I just don't like the GM.
But again, you can recognize that, like, I don't like this person. Whereas honestly, part of the reason I went for Houston was, holy shit, that logo is amazing.
Yeah, the logo.
I will still put Houston as one of the best designed logos in the league.
And also one of the sickest color schemes.
Yes!
I love their color scheme.
Oh my god, it's beautiful.
Like,
Lime green and black.
Like, I remember when it came out, I was legitimately like, oh, fucking Dallas gets the blue and fucking Houston gets this cool shit. Like,
like people are weird.
I say that with like my jersey's immediately like on my desk next to you.
No, people are weird.
Yeah.
Please examine your preconceived notions when you form an opinion on something. It is always worth examining your preconceived notions when you form an opinion on something. You might learn something new. And if your instinct is still to shit on the fans of a team that you don't like, then you can shut the fuck up because we don't need you here.
Also, there's no problem with liking what you like.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Just live and let live. Unless you're, like, actively hurting someone or making someone's life worse, there ain't nothing fucking wrong with liking something.
Yeah, I keep going back to the people who got kicked out of the arena because they were being so abusive to a couple of Houston fans, Lynxer's fiance, who I've met and is a lovely, beautiful human being that I adore.
She's wonderful.
She's so great,
She's a fucking delight.
She's so great.
I say as my Irish escapes very briefly.
She's just a lovely human being, and I adore her.
Yeah.
So the whole, oh, well, they're fake fans and they were making stuff up. It's like, she's for one, she actually knows what the fuck she's talking about in terms of the game. And for another, oh no, she's supporting her fiance in his line of employment?
Shocking.
Oh dear.
How weird.
Do you yell at the players' parents who show up and sit in the front row to cheer on their kid?
I sat next to Kirby's parents during the Philly playoffs last year.
I love it when they do that. I love it when they show up in their jerseys with their kid's name on the back and are just like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, parents are here. This is the best.
Dude, after Dallas's first win this stage, because I was freaking out the whole match, Zachary's mom took a picture of me.
And here's your number one fan.
Yeah, Zachary's mom is like one of the sweetest people. She's great.
Yeah, so I love seeing parents there supporting their kids. I love seeing significant others there. Yeah. I love talking with people and be like, oh, we're in the same jersey. Oh, hey, you're in a Houston jersey. Are you? No, we flew in from Pennsylvania. Wow. Yeah, we're only here for like 36 hours. So we're doing this, and then we're going to Guildhall, and then we're doing this, and then we're flying out tomorrow morning. I'm like, damn, guys.
Dedication. And you know what? I'm about it. I love seeing how passionate people get about this.
Yeah.
And even if there are some times where I'm like, all right, take it the fuck down a notch, please. Just from like the sake of my throbbing temples. It's like, just have fun, motherfuckers.
The only thing that I get tired of is top volume screams over everything right behind me. There's occasionally someone that just has no volume modulation and a really piercing scream that breaks it out all the time. And
I know some of those people, and they're lovely people. Please.
But sometimes you're just kind of like, I really don't want to rain on your parade. I'm also dying.
Yeah.
And then you wind up stuck in that weird middle ground of trying really hard to support all the fans out here, and also just your own personal button is being mashed on by someone else's enthusiasm, and where's the line?
Yeah,
it's so hard to find that line.
And like, Okay, I'm gonna laugh for a second here because the opening week I was there with people from the same like amateur league that I play in. Mm-hmm. We had a meetup there, and we were there with one of the players. His name's Rick. He's a really big Shock fan, and he was so happy to see them play.
He's not the yeller, is he?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, but no. Because anytime something remotely positive happened, anytime they did something even a little bit good, same duration, intonation, inflection, everything, just, yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
It's like the
Architect!
It's
yeah!
like the cats that say yes, yeah.
No, honestly, yeah, and it's like, I feel so bad because
wonderful.
people have teased him about this so much. Like, but it's one of those things where I'm just sitting there the whole time, just like.
No, but they've got a fan, and I cannot remember this guy's name to save his life.
The guy Escatet, that guy.
No, like you can hear him. Let's go, Shock! Like the really loud one that you can always hear over the broadcast.
Yeah,
I love him.
Yeah,
he's great.
He's great, but there are times where I'm just like, all right, come on, man. Like,
nah, I enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's fun. Evidently, at one point there. God, it was weeks ago. I cannot for the life of me remember which match it was. But I was sitting in the front row with Briggsy. I think it was actually their third... No, it wasn't Spirit Day. It was another night. Anyway, sitting in the front row with Briggsy, and it's an escort map. And at one point, the Valiant get off the payload completely and go invade the spawn and wreck them, their opponent, and then come back to the payload. And when they're leaving, you can hear Briggsy and I both yelling, "What are you doing?"
Guess what? If you don't get the push, doesn't fucking matter. Like,
I mean, if I remember correctly, they got it, and then their opponents got it, and it was going for points 4, 5, and 6 that it was the issue. It was another one of those things are close, but they didn't make it.
Fair enough.
So it wasn't a C9. They still had plenty of time. They just went to go be overly aggressive and then came back and continued. But you could just hear us yelling, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. I will say I'm mad that something didn't get picked up on the crowd mics when I was there for the finals, because on Nimbani there was one fight where Cho Hyobin died last, and he's running towards the stairs and just gets smashed into space by fucking Haxal's whip shot, and I saw it coming, so I just, "Be gone, thought!" And like really loudly, and the fucking like Vancouver fans around me were all fucking dying laughing. The guy next to me turned, "Did I just witness an exorcism?" Like,
see, this is what happens when you make friends with the fans around you instead of being jerks.
Just be there, banter.
And I mean, regardless of who you're rooting for, I have absolutely sat in the wrong section for one match so I could be in the right section of another match.
Oh, yeah.
And you can still, just like, even if you're the only person there going, "Shields up," while everyone else is rooting for Atlanta, you can still be friendly with the people around you, because the match will end and another one will begin.
It's true.
And things will change. Like, just be nice. It doesn't matter who people are fans of. You're all here to have fun.
You're not a Yankees fan at Fenway. Just chill. You're not a fucking what is it? Giants at Cowboys? Like, is that a football rivalry?
I don't know. I Broncos and Raiders.
Broncos
is
and
the
Raiders.
one that I am intimately familiar with.
Okay, then we'll go with that one.
Bears and Packers
is
another one.
Okay.
But it's this sport. This esport has not been around long enough to have those really, really deep, contentious fan rivalries. Let's not develop them. Let's just not do that.
Also, we're too fucking small, like, for this shit to get toxic and awful.
Yeah, and most of us are fans of more than one team. We're not getting paid to do it.
I'd like to put, like, on my desk and in my closet, I have Team Finland, Vancouver Titans, Dallas Fuel, Philadelphia Fusion, and I have worn all of them to Overwatch League. Well, except for the Finland one, but...
I have many a Valiant merch. I have a single Gladiator shirt, and I need to fix that from someone that isn't Fanatics. I have a lot of Houston merch because that was the team that my mom was convinced was my absolute favorite. So she and my brother got me a lot of Houston merch for Christmas, and that just warmed my little heart. she got an ornament commissioned for me. And it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. You can find all sorts of stuff on Etsy. The fact that my mom went on Etsy, that's not usual for her. So I was very impressed by all of that. And I even have a Spark shirt. Namely because it would have cost me more to return it to Fanatics than to keep it. So
just buy the ones at the stadium. They don't have the shitty ones up front and center.
Yeah, and I need to I need to fix that up somehow. I need to get it to someone who can cut it and sew it. I need to get a bright pink undershirt or something because to recap for everyone, the white women's Spark shirt in the Fanatic shop is see-through. And they added a gray one because they're idiots and can't fathom that maybe we want a solid pink shirt for the Spark, you know?
That's half the reason people got excited about the Spark before they even announced their team, was just, here's the pink and blue with the pachoo, finger gun.
And as far as I can tell, they've listened to our criticism. Instead of having one piece per team of women's merch, we now have 2 pieces per team. Actually 4 if you count the sandals. But... all of the teams, from what I can tell, added a shirt in a gray, white, or black color. So Gladiators added a white shirt in addition to their purple one. Valiant added a black in addition to the green.
Yeah, and they cut the hoodies now.
Spark added gray instead of having... It doesn't pop on a gray background. They should have put it on the black, and it would have popped there, and it wouldn't have been fucking see-through. But no, you put non-outlined pink on heather gray, and you can't see shit. Fanatics makes really bad decisions, you guys.
Anyway.
And doing a return costs $10.
Oh, fuck that noise. I shouldn't have to pay for your cock up.
See, that was my thought. And then I looked at it and went, so I paid $4 for this shirt because of that T-Mobile Tuesdays thing. And it would cost me more to return the shirt than it would to keep it and doctor it? Fine. I'll keep it. And I'll make it unrecognizable as a piece of your merch and make it my own. I'm petty.
Anyway, go fuck yourself, Fanatics.
Yeah,
in this
I'm
case.
Still massively disappointed with all of their life decisions, and I recently commissioned a Valiant hat from Arsenic Cyanide.
Yes.
Because I don't like Fanatics hats. It's beautiful.
It is.
It's a work of art.
It's pretty rad.
It's one of a kind.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah. Their merch sucks. Make your own.
Anyway, with our usual gushing / about the community out of the way, I feel like we should wrap this up because
we need to make predictions.
Yeah.
We do. We're starting again.
Yeah,
Shit's going down.
The schedule.
See, stage 2, week 1, I'm going to be in the arena because Guildhall had free tickets this week and free with purchase. So I went and I purchased and I'm going tomorrow. So, Fusion versus Excelsior. I'm going to just, out of habit, give it to Excelsior.
I am also going with Excelsior. Boston versus Atlanta.
See, this is because Atlanta's recently had a shakeup, but Boston has had a morale shakeup with all this shit that happened.
But here's the thing. Players are all still there. The cohesion is intact.
This is true. Unless something goes insane tomorrow morning, which it might.
I'm going to go with Boston here.
Probably, yeah.
Shanghai versus Gladiators.
Gladiators.
I'm going Gladiators. It's going to be close.
And Shanghai is much stronger.
They're getting better.
Gladiators played really well at the end of last stage.
They're getting better, but Gladiators seem to have it together, and if they play on that level, they got it.
And I will be in that arena in purple for once in my life because it's a day the Valiant don't play.
Up next, Guangzhou versus Paris.
Guangzhou.
Guangzhou.
I love Paris. They've got some work to do. Some recent
if they play LH Cloudy, they might have a chance, but...
Well, and the question is also, is anyone going to try to integrate Batiste, and if so, how? Because that could cause some shakeups, especially if the new strategies haven't been done in scrims, haven't been done against each other. You know, you can pull off a really clever play once or twice before everyone else starts to do it. So I'll be interested to see if Batiste makes any appearances this week. I will be very surprised if he does not, and I'll also be interested to see what kind of shakeups that causes.
I think so. I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't expect to see much of him, and if we're going to see any sort of those pocket plays, it's going to happen for a team that's facing like an enemy that's at the very high end of the bracket, where you need a trick up your sleeve to try and get the win.
Speaking of low versus high, we have Mayhem versus Spitfire and Justice versus Defiant next on Friday.
I'm going with Spitfire and then Defiant.
Yeah. And then we have Valiant and Shock, and this one hurts me because I definitely became a Shock fan as of late.
I'm going Shock, no hesitation.
I have to throw in with my boys. I know it's not the smart decision, and I don't care.
Yeah, fair. Up next, Gladiators and Seoul. Now, this one is interesting because Seoul has looked really good, and Gladiators is finally playing up to their potential.
It's Lions and Tigers.
We don't.
No Bears.
Chengdu isn't playing that day.
I know. Yeah. No Bears. Oh my. I'm gonna throw in with Gladiators. Pure sentiment, and also now that they've had 2 weeks to practice, I want to see more of what Roar and Decay will do on this team.
I feel like I'm going to go Gladiators too because I feel like Gladiators is going to be more able to adapt to what Seoul does as a team than I think NYXL was.
Yeah.
I don't think their playstyle is quite as much like kryptonited by the Sombra.
And I think Gladiators are aggressive enough to be able to run with it. I think they play some really aggressive play. I think it will be interesting to see.
I think so too. Up next, on starting off Saturday, Mayhem versus Fusion. Although who knows with whoever Mayhem's picking up. But
yeah, supposedly.
I doubt they'll be able to really integrate them unless they haven't already. But
and there's no guarantee that roster pickup, if it happens, will be announced tomorrow. Yeah. It might be next week sometime. It might be next month. We don't know.
It's true. Toronto Defiant versus Boston Uprising.
I'm gonna give that to Boston.
I'm going Toronto. Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't know that. Basically, I think it's going to come down to whether or not Toronto is going to have someone who can play the Brig as well as Stellar did. If Asher can do well in that spot, that's good. If not, then it gets a bit dicey, and then Boston could take it. I think it's going to be close, but I'm leaning Toronto.
I'm leaning for, depending on how well Boston recovers from this fun emotional shock that we've had over the past couple of days. I'm still leaning towards Boston.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we shall. That's going to be a close one. It's going to be one to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Up next, New York versus Shanghai.
New York. Because they're New York.
It's true.
Shanghai's doing a lot better. I still don't think Shanghai is quite up to that level
Here's the thing, though. They're another Sombra Goats team. And I think New York has the ability to adapt, and I'm still going to give them the edge here. But if they play the way they did against Seoul, it is entirely possible that Shanghai beats New York.
They've had an entire week to learn how not to play the way they did against Seoul.
True.
And I get the feeling that after getting steamrolled like that, there is going to be a lot of focus on how do we counter Sombra Goats? How do we shore up this obvious hole in our defenses?
I'm just gonna make one counterpoint here, which is Stage 4 of last season.
That's true.
They may have taken it easy and gotten cocky, but they also had like 4 weeks. They had 5 weeks of play to see what other teams were doing and know how to counter it. In terms of that early Brig meta.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And clearly it's not they couldn't, because we have seen what they can do. But all the same, their style has remained fairly consistent. The way that they approach fights and think about engagements and play out fights. So it's whether or not they're really able to push the tempo in the way that they need to.
But Seoul also had the skill level and the consistency at that point to be able to take the fight to them. I'm still not sure that this particular iteration of the Dragons is cohesive enough to be able to bring it into New York's living room.
I'm not sure yet, but I'm just saying we can't rule it out anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like last stage, I would have said New York with no hesitation. This, I have to think about it for a second.
And that says something about the Dragons.
Chengdu versus Paris.
Chengdu.
Shock versus Guangzhou.
I'm going to go with Shock.
I'm also going Shock.
And I do love that it's Shock and Charge.
Yeah.
That makes me really happy. That is going to be an electric match.
It just makes me think of the Lilo and Stitch, the ziz with the fucking jumper cables.
And they're also blue and orange, the Broncos colors.
Yeah.
Speaking
also
of
Spitfire
blue and
colors,
orange,
yeah.
Spitfire.
Atlanta Reign versus London Spitfire. I'm going Atlanta.
Spitfire.
I'm going Atlanta.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Okay. This will be fun to see. Then Vancouver versus Hangzhou. Vancouver.
Obviously Vancouver, but I will be interested to see what the Spark has done in this 2-week interim. Because they had so much promise, and then they keep choking on stage. So I'm wondering if they've figured out how to handle that, essentially.
And the other thing that's interesting is they're going to be playing in a matchup against a team nobody expects them to beat.
Yeah.
Does that alleviate some of that pressure? Or do they layer it on themselves harder because they want to defy those expectations?
Well, and the other thing is we know that the Titans aren't invincible. Again, we talked about 2 map 5s, one of which came from Chengdu.
And to be fair, Guxue and No Smite are tanks that are capable of that sort of play that we saw from Super.
Oh, absolutely. And this is also their first match of this stage, so they will have had plenty of time to prepare and a whole lot more footage after the finals.
Yes.
Especially seeing how the Shock were able to bully the Titans in half those maps and take them from them. It's a question of whether or not the Spark can learn from that and implement it. I don't see them winning, but if they did manage to implement that in their gameplay, in their strategies...
They could take a map or two.
I can see a map 5.
Yeah.
If they play in this early stage the way they played early stage 1, I can see a map 5.
And also, I don't know if I'd say the Shock bullied Titans, but they definitely exploited them. And it depends on whether or not Spark is going to be well drilled enough in recognizing the patterns of the Titans' play that they're able to notice and react to them in the moment.
This is true. And again, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I didn't bully them. They were sitting in their living room at one point. They did the living room play.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in all of the maps that Shock won, they were usually pretty close and could have gone either way. In most of the ones that Titans won, it was not close.
Let me have this. No. Either way,
I'm just saying
if
for
the
the sake of
Spark are
specificity,
able to learn and implement, I can see, I don't see
put
a
up a fight.
complete sweep. I can see a 3-1, I can see a 3-2.
Yeah. And finally, closing it out is Washington Justice versus Chengdu.
Give me them pandas.
Yeah. I'm going to go for the Chengdu on this.
And I mean, I feel like at some point, Justice is going to stop being a gimme team.
Yeah.
Because it's no fun having gimme teams.
Yeah.
And I say that when Dragons and Mayhem were the gimme teams of last season, and this season it's Mayhem again, and Justice.
I'll say that there is a certain amount of fun to have with them, though, because remember whenever Shanghai looked like they might get it? Those were some of those moments where everyone's just like, it's like Morpheus is fighting Neo, everyone's fucking vaulting over the couch to go watch. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, there is that part of it. There is that enthused, hey, they might actually do it. But that is on the back of a whole lot of nope.
A whole lot of vodka.
And that's what I worry about the Valiant becoming. And for everyone's like, well, Valiant had a 0-7. Doesn't that make them the gimme team? Like, look at who they were fucking playing.
Yeah.
That's because we're gone from 10 matches a season to 7, and they aren't playing everyone, which, thank God, give them some bye weeks, let them rest. And I say this for every team, give them some bye weeks, let them rest. Mm-hmm. You have to look at, and we've done this rant before, you have to look at who they're facing, you have to look at the map breakdown. You have their map differential wasn't as bad as some of the other teams above them.
It wasn't.
They were pretty good in terms of map differential, but it was the wins that killed them, and they were up against a lot of the tougher teams.
They did have a very legitimately difficult strength of schedule.
And they, let's be real, are not the best at GOATs. There are some instances where they pulled it out pretty well, and there's a lot of we made it to the third round of a map 5 and lost. And you have to take that into account.
Yeah, they don't have the clutch factor. Like, they have individual performances that can get them within striking distance, but they can't seem to put the pieces together to get them the rest of the way.
And who knows if it was shot calling, who knows if it was... Yeah. Again, we keep pointing fingers at why is a main tank in the main support role and where is Custa? And we can say that for 1,000 years, but that can't be the only factor in this. It's not an easy fix sort of scenario.
It's definitely not, because the problems do not start nor end there. Like, there's a lot of issues with the Valiant as they currently exist, and we'll have to see how they've been able to address those at present, and if any of those mysterious signings that may or may not be happening.
We're refreshing again because we're paranoid.
Refreshing Reddit.
Well, and it's their first 3 maps of this season are also against tougher teams. So we'll see how that goes down, because again, you're looking at the first map against a team that went 4-3 against Vancouver, which is not an easy thing to do.
No, it is not.
So, yeah. We will see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, I love my boys. I have faith. I also try to be a realist. But who
trust
knows?
me, as a Dallas fan, I understand this feeling intimately.
Yeah. Well, Dallas never had a 0 in anything season.
We had 1 in 9.
This is true. This is true.
We have had.
This is true.
We have had stages where we've lost more than 7.
Yep. But that was also everyone plays every week, sometimes multiple times. Which, again, thank God they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I'm very glad they're not doing that.
Yeah, this is why bye weeks exist.
Yep.
Okay, well, we've gone for a while. This was not the plan, but here we are.
Tangents, they happen.
This is what happens when we don't record for 2 weeks. We shove 2 episodes into one.
Pretty much. Anyway, I feel like we've covered everything we reasonably can here.
All right, well, in that case, where can the people find you?
At @the_rage or raging_nerd on Twitter.
Is it rage or raging?
I think it's raging.
I think it's rage.
It might be.
I'm like
I'm gonna
90%
I'm gonna look up my own
rage.
fucking Twitter right now. Rage, yes.
I know your Twitter better than you.
You can tell how often I go on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a thing. All right,
it's not often.
The _rage_nerd. Anywhere else? Any projects you're working on, or are we calling that it?
I play main tank for an Overwatch Pretenders team called Mercury Cougars. We're an amateur league for people gold to diamond. We've got kind of 2 divisions. We got a lot of teams open that are constantly looking for new players, and it's a great place to come and play and learn and get, experience in the team environment, and with more higher level players who are willing to coach you. It's a great way to improve. I've improved a lot doing it. I recommend it a lot. We didn't make it to the finals of the playoffs. We got knocked out in the semis, but I might be there for the All-Star game, and if not, I'm going to be casting it. So,
all right, and when is that?
Have they announced the day? I say as I go to...
As I throw you all these fastballs right at the end of the episode.
They have not announced the days of the All-Star game yet.
Well, we will be doing this hopefully every week.
April 12th to 13th. April 12th and April 13th are the 2 days of Overwatch Pretenders All-Stars, both starting at 8 p.m. EST.
So keep an eye out for that.
Yes. And I've also got my first voice acting job. I am doing an audio book. Hopefully that's good enough that I can kind of plug it here when it's done. But yeah, that's exciting for me.
All right. Those should be super fun.
Yes. I am so excited about all of these things.
Yes. And I'm Katie. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. The YouTube channel's mostly reaction videos, but it's also some vlogs. We do have some fun. I am also on an entire slew of Rooster Teeth podcasts with the Rooster Team. Anchor.fm/the Rooster Team, Anchor.fm/Rooster Team Radio. Searching for either will get you where you need to go. We've covered Genlock, we've covered Ruby, we are in the middle of covering Red vs. Blue, and there's also some fun side projects there, like Welcome to Vale, which is our Ruby and Night Vale, not really a crossover so much as it is a genre mishmash. That is a good time. Check that out. And if you want to follow us, if you're listening to this on YouTube, we are also available on Anchor. It's anchor.fm/onthepoint. It's at the time of recording, it's pushed to several podcast places. We're still waiting on some of the big ones, so there will be announcements when that happens. You can support us on Anchor. You can also follow us on Twitter at On the Point Pod. That is where we are. That is where we live. We do try to live tweet matches. It doesn't always work, but we try. And yeah, supporting our sponsor supports us, so head over to fredsbs.com, fredsbs.com, and use coupon code ONTHEPOINT for 20% off your entire order. Remember, if you're local, you may well be able to order an entire pie soon. And that Easter is coming up. Easter's coming up. Mother's Day is coming up. I honestly don't know if you do pie for Passover, but if that is your kind of thing, Passover's coming up. So, order desserts for your special occasions.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Thanks for listening. You good?
I need fucking water.
And I'm good too. Let's C9.